Hello and welcome. I'm Eric from Onboard Gaming, and welcome to another episode of the Warmaster Challenge. In today, we've got a special guest commentator, Steven. Steven, introduce yourself.
What's going on, guys? Steven here, Team Xenos Petting Zoo. But glad to be here.
Yep, and for those of you who watched our last episode, he was fighting against our defender today, Daniel. And we've got Daniel in here to run us through the list. So Daniel, we're running another combination of deathguard and demons. Can you kind of walk us through what you're bringing today?
Yeah, so this list is actually slightly but also drastically different than what we were used to in the past. So with this list, contrary to what we had last time, we have one Contemptor Dreadnought with the Volkites. We have the rocket launcher on the side. So just taking one because I feel like the AP0 is not really going to be super effective against Gravis armor and cover. So, need a little AP. An extra roll gives me AP1, which I don't have today, and he ignores that. So we're going to take a different approach. We also have two Photed Bloat Drones with heavy blight launchers. I'm taking these because they are 6-shot siege, strength 6, -3, 2 damage. So a little bit of long-range firepower there. They also fly, they move 10, so a lot of good stuff there. We also have a Demon Prince who's giving the Bloat Drones and some other stuff some rerolls to hit. This guy has talons and wings. He's taking Fleshy Abundance, so if I take some damage on my drones or my crawlers, I'll be able to heal that up just nice. We also have 2 units of 3 Nurglings. These are just going to be in the middle of the board trying to gunk up some objectives, maybe stops Logan's his attack bikes from coming for a turn 1 kill. That would not be very nice. Let's see, what else do we have here? We've got 2 Deathguard characters for our HQs. The first one is the Lord of Virulence. This guy has been upgraded to have Viscous Death, so he's got a Strength 6 Flamer, and I'm re-rolling the dice for his shots. The way that it's worded is you have to re-roll both based off of what the wording there is. We also have a Sorcerer and Terminator armor. He has Lightning Claws, and his powers today are going to be Gift of Plagues. So we're going to be extending my plague range by 6 inches, and then we have Putrescent Vitality. It's going to be +1 strength and toughness for an infantry unit. While you got the Lord of Virulence there on the screen, he's actually going to be taking the Plague Company Warlord trait today. We are doing Mortarian's Anvil, so units can heroically intervene 3 inches for a CP. He's also going to be taking the Warlord trait Gloaming Bloat. So this is my favorite, because if you are within plague range, no reroll to hit, no reroll to wound, and no overwatch. I learned the hard way against Logan at an RTT that you get to overwatch twice. So what's 2 times 0? Well, it's still 0.
So I want to point out a couple things, Dan, man. It looks like you've got a little different approach to the list than what you normally take here. But I like it because I feel like one thing that you've implemented into your game here is a little bit more mobility than Deathguard normally sees. And I think that that's going to be really, really heavy here. Give me your thoughts on that. What do you think?
Yeah, so the Contemptors are great because they move 8. But the problem is they don't move over terrain, and they really suffer from a miscalculation when I deploy. I learned that at the GT last weekend. If you deploy behind a ruin that's blocking most of the objective, you're not getting out of that objective for the rest of the game. You're just going to have to hang out there, and that really cost me. So being able to fly with the bloat drones is great. I used to take the haulers. The haulers, I love the haulers, but I wanted something a little bit more long range, I guess you could say, because those meltas are only 24. So these guys are 36. They have a lot of AP. And they get +1 damage on 6s to wound for the Prince. So just a lot more built-in rerolls and stuff like that. And it's really good against Gravis.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I think I like that look because it's going to give you a little bit of late-game flexibility and give you an answer for some stuff later on that you might actually be able to capitalize on against a plotting, high-damage Space Marine army. I like that as well. And the other thing that we've got is you switched up the Terminator variants. I've noticed you got some Blight Lords here instead of the Death Shroud. I'm assuming it looks like you want a little bit more multi-phase engaging units, yeah?
Yeah, so I took 10 Blightlord Terminators. They're not listed on the screen. Didn't manage to get time because they're not fully painted yet. But I took 10, so for 150 more points, we get an extra 15 wounds. And we're going to be having a little bit more consistent damage output. The Death Shroud have, I think it's 21 attacks. The Blightlords have 31. And it's going to be Strength 5, AP 3, 1 damage. I took the swords over the axes because they're AP 3. And I can make them Strength 6, so it kind of it's a little bit of trade-off there. And on 6s to wound, they're AP 4. So I'm going to cut through some Gravis if I can even get there. I don't really anticipate fighting Logan for the center of the board. I'm really going to try and stay away from most of his army because as good as I am in combat, if I don't wipe the unit, he's going to turn his flamers into pistols, and I'm just going to have a bad time.
Yep. So that's a good point. And moving forward on that, so we know what units you're bringing. I like the list. It looks like something you're comfortable with, and you know. What kind of secondaries are you anticipating from Logan in this fight? What did you kind of gear for, and what kind of things were you expecting that he was going to be bringing to the table as far as what secondaries he was going to select?
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. I said to Logan before we started this, I think we actually have the same secondaries. I took banners. Because there's 6 objectives. I have some infantry, I have some characters that I can do to set up the banners. Turn 1, they don't really need to do anything. If the Blight Lords are on the table, they can set up a banner. I don't know if I'll do that. I'm also taking While We Stand We Fight. It's going to be my Demon Prince. It's going to be my Blight Lords. And it's also going to be one of my Plague Bush Crawlers. That'll be easily identifiable on the board. It's the one that's fully painted.
Yep.
So those are my 2 secondaries. And then I think the third one is engage on all fronts. I want to try and see if I can tag one side of the board and just consistently score 2 points per game. I think it's really going to come down to primaries.
What do you? Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that yours are pretty straightforward as far as what deathguard wants to do. What are you thinking he's going to pick?
I think he's going to take the same.
Okay.
I think he's going to take While We Stand. It's going to be his Inceptors, his Eradicator squad, and then it's going to be his big aggressor bomb. With that apothecary there, I'm going to be really hard phased to be able to try and kill them, because there's a lot. If you can tell with the board, there's a lot of -1 to hit in the center, so I'm hitting on 4s. So that's a little bit of a disadvantage for both of us. His Meltas are hitting on 4s, even though they're assault, so there's a little bit of that there. My mortars are now hitting on 4s, so it's a little bit of reduced efficiency. So I'm going to try and see if I can just kind of stay away from him. And my plan is to just shoot him off of one objective and try and see if I can score more every single turn.
Nice. So you're thinking the real key, and this is my last question for you, Dan, is that you're thinking the real key here is not necessarily going to be secondaries, because you guys will think you guys are going to kind of stonewall one another, but you're first seeing the primary being the real tipping factor one way or the other. I like it.
Yeah. And then I think we didn't finish going through the list, but the other characters I have is a Foul Blight Spawn. That hasn't changed. He's still got the Arch Contaminator. He's still got the Stench Vats. He's got Viscous Death. And then the other one is the Tallyman. Always got to get my CP. I started with 4 this time, so I doubled my CP.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah, right. And so we're trying to get all that done. And let's see, did I take anything else? Oh, and then I just got some Poxwalkers. Again, just trying to screen out some Eradicators. I think his biggest threat this game is going to be those Eradicators. I need to make sure they stay away from me, and that I can at least try and smash them. Because if I don't, this game will go one way very fast.
Yeah.
So that's my concern, is I need to play very safe, or else we're going to have a bad time.
Right on. All right, man. Well, I think you got all the tools. I'm excited. Can he keep his run going, ladies and gentlemen? All right, Daniel, good luck out there and have a blast.
Thank you.
All right, next up comes our challenger, Logan, from Vanguard Tactics.
Yeah, this is going to be a real interesting game, because I don't know if I've actually watched a real competitive deathguard versus Salamanders list, because it's going to be the total immovable object versus the unstoppable force, The Salamanders have some obscene damage output, and that's going to be pretty wild. So I think it's going to be an interesting game.
All right, here's our challenger, Logan.
Hello.
All right, guys, this is Logan from Vanguard Tactics. He's a very established player over here. He's a solid general. He's going to go ahead and walk us through a little bit of his list in paraphrasing, and let us know kind of what he thinks about his list and how it matches up. Logan, what are you bringing in your list today?
So I have a single Vanguard, no troops. I have 0 OPSEC in the list, actually. Yeah, don't need it.
Who needs that? OPSEC, what?
Yeah, but it's completely filled out, all the choices. Company vets and servitors, Vulcan. Vulcan's great. A lieutenant. Got the unit of 6 aggressors and 3 aggressors, so 9 flamer aggressors total. 9 eradicators with the basic meltas. Unit of 3 attack bikes with the meltas. 6 plasma inceptors, and then a couple of my favorite additions have been these relic contemptor dreadnoughts with the Volkites and the missiles, and then of course the apothecary, everyone's favorite.
Gotta have him. Yeah. So that's a ton of firepower. You kind of, like you said, you forego a bit of the OBSEC in favor of just the big guns. So Logan, you're real seasoned with this list. You've taken it to pretty good heights so far. What do you think helps that succeed, and what are some of the things as Salamanders that make a list like this come together and actually work?
They're really flexible. So I have 9 aggressors, like I said, and for a 120 point unit, they really do so much. They can punch pretty decently, and they just put out a ton of shots. Strength 4, -1 with a +1 to wound. Then you have strats like I can get 3 mortal wounds out of that. I have strats to boost their save, strats so that they can overwatch. For people, so yeah, I can overwatch twice. That also gives them a heroic intervention. So there's just a lot of little things that I can do. I just always have a lot of options, whether I need to, shoot someone or run up and throw a little bit of punch. I have the flexibility, and none of the units really cost that much. 135 for a unit of 3 eradicators, 120 for aggressors. 165 for 3 Inceptors. So I can really just spread out, and if I lose some here and there, I don't know. I still have a lot left over. I have 11 shooting units, and so I'm able to really spread the board and cover a lot of fire angles in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, you kind of cover down on your other units and allow pretty much no advantageous position. I like it. So in this matchup, you've seen deathguard before.
Mm-hmm.
What are you anticipating out of Daniel? What are you thinking he's going to take for his secondaries, and what do you think of his game plan? What are you anticipating?
I'm anticipating we're going to have like a mirror match. I am going to basically take all the secondaries I can where I don't have to go out, and I'm assuming he's going to do the same. Because if he comes out into the open, then I have, especially on this map, there's plenty of firing lanes. There's a lot of dense terrain, but there's so much firepower on both sides that whoever peeks out first, that unit's just going to get its head lopped off. So I'm assuming we're going to have the same approach, taking very defensive secondaries where we can just chill in our own deployment zone and just wait for the other one to move and try to get angles on each other where we can, and just hope that someone makes a mistake in deployment.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a very insightful and perceptive take on it. I think that you guys are both have your heads together on this setup. It's a terrain heavy map, which is going to be interesting. What do you think leads you to victory, Logan? What do you think gets it done for you?
I hope that he picks a secondary or something where he has to come out. One of his deathguard secondaries where he's got to either be in different places on the map at the end of the game, or where he's got to contaminate the objectives where he's forced to come out. So that's why for my secondaries, I want to take While We Stand We Fight and banners, so I can just stay in my zone, and then assassinate. I want to take that just so that and hope that he is forced to come out, because if he is, then I can kill enough of the stuff to kill a few characters, try to kill 3 and get 9 points, and be okay.
I want to touch on something that's super interesting you just brought up. I've heard like a 50-50 opinion on Assassinate versus Deathguard, because one thing to note is every competitive Deathguard list is bringing a Tallyman, you're bringing a Foul Blightspawn, you're bringing characters for rerolls, you're bringing like 4 to 6 characters all the time, which would instinctively make most people want to go with Assassinate, but some armies it can be a trap in. It's kind of interesting. So I'm curious, your army has a lot of firepower. Do you see that one as a pretty easily achievable one against this Deathguard list?
Well, I don't have any indirect fire, so he has to come out. So if I pick Assassinate and he just keeps all of his characters in like one of those little buildings in the corner, that denies me 15 pretty well. Unless I try for some kind of desperate thing on turn 5. But yeah, I'm just hoping that he has to come out in the open, and if he does come out in the open, I have a ton of shots, and if I'm able to stay hidden and keep most of my stuff alive, I should be able to punch, even through those 10 Blight Lord Terminators. I have 24 Melta shots and 4 missile shots, which, D6 damage, he's going to fail saves eventually.
Yeah, Salamanders bringing the heat for sure. All right, Logan. Well, hey, appreciate you coming in here. We look forward to watching the game. We know it's going to be a good one, and good luck out there, man. Hopefully you can take it down.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, our players are going to set up. They're going to roll off for deployment, and we're going to get this thing going.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, Eric, because if you notice, they both were pretty on the money with kind of what the other one was saying. They both had each other's game plan kind of pretty closely predicted.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think that the one thing that was kind of an outlier was I don't think Logan had kind of he was kind of on the money with what Daniel was doing with thinking he was going to take engage, and then I also thought it was pretty interesting that Logan went with assassinate, which is kind of might work with in Daniel's favor because they're both wanting to play cagey,
right.
And like Logan said, he was hoping there was going to be some desperation, and I think characters is going to be an area that might not be that desperate, movement there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like you're saying, this is very dense terrain on this board, so mobility could potentially be an issue. Not a lot of flying stuff, although he was saying that he's got those, what are they called?
The drones.
The drones,
yeah,
to help mitigate that a little bit, so he can kind of get some better positioning if Logan gets leaves something exposed.
Right on. So right now our players are out there. They're discussing, they're kind of doing what's big in any sort of competitive game, but any game especially, where you kind of dictate and make sure you all agree on your terrain features. As you go through this part, it's really important that you guys both establish what it is because you avoid that point in a game where you're like, hey, I thought this was obscuring, and you're like, well, I thought it wasn't. And then you guys both look at each other really weird because you disagree because it's advantageous each direction. So this is a really good practice to get into. Both these guys are seasoned players, and they're establishing the board, and they have their setup kind of mapped out here. So
yeah, I'm really enjoying watching both these players not only just do their setup here, but also discussing how they're approaching this battle. I mean, I've played Warhammer for a long time, but I've never really gone into those upper echelons of the competitive level, and so I think my viewpoints, although seasoned, are not nearly up to the level that these guys are at. So I really enjoy just sort of hearing what they have to say, how they're going to approach these things, how it differs from my own more probably more casual approach, but it's really interesting. It really just brings another aspect of this game.
yeah. Well, I think it's important to note that both these guys are actually pretty high up in the ladders for their respective factions, creeping their way towards best in faction. They've both been placing high recently in the ITC tournament circuit, so this game is going to be a good game. This is going to be interesting because I think that Logan is kind of going to be initially on a back foot with the assassinate pick. Personally, I think that could be a big dictation of the game because like I said in Deathguard, it's happened to me sometimes. It's a high risk, high reward, and if you have the right army for it, to where you can really destroy that much durable stuff to get to the characters, it's very rewarding. You can get a lot of points there. But if you can't tip that fulcrum, you get punished on it. It's right. All or nothing.
So in your experience, if you know that if your opponent takes assassinate against you and you have such a high volume of characters, are you going to try and keep them all behind a very well-managed screen, like a blob, like castling up, or are you going to distribute them more across the board so if you do get out of position, you're not punished as badly?
What I think it causes you to do here is, so Daniel's game plan is kind of already pretty established, minus some small nuances that happen based on your opponent you're facing. But each of the Deathguard characters, it's really important that they support certain units that they have. However, the thing about it is those units typically overlap and screen them with Lookout Sir, and they also cause them to be really tough because you've got to get through a couple of Contemptors and 20 Poxwalkers before you can target one dude, or you've got to get through one or two maybe Plague Burst crawlers that are there, and those things are so tough to kill that it's doable, but it depends on what the units are positionally, how you're doing it, and pretty much if Logan can impose his army on him enough to be able to get it done, and if Daniel allows it to happen. So it's going to be super interesting, I think.
I also noticed something here that I'm not super familiar with, is both players really don't have OBSEC. They're very just putting a lot of firepower on the board and don't have a lot of troop support. Is that common on the top levels, or is that more specific to these factions, or maybe even these players themselves?
I think it's actually a little less common right now. You're seeing a lot of, it's important to note that I believe Logan does have Rights of War, the Warlord trait in there. I got to double check and make sure on the list. Oh, no, I think he actually dropped it. So, yeah, he's going no OBSEC because he knows that, especially in the tactical doctrine, the Salamanders can do enough damage to where they can really flip the board state in the middle of the game pretty well, and Logan knows how much firepower he has. With Daniels, it's a little different, but Daniel just kind of plays on the fact that he can really just set on an objective and not get taken off. All right, let's see what these guys are doing here. They're kind of getting their game set up. Logan has spent 1 pregame CP, dropping him down to 5. Let's...
Once again, thank you everybody for joining. This is our second episode of the Warmaster Challenge. Now, at the end of tonight's episode, we are going to have a winner. Either Daniel's going to have the second notch in his belt, 2 out of 3 towards the first Warmaster title, or Logan will be starting his journey up there. We will be posting tomorrow a new sign-up sheet to challenge whoever wins this one.
Yeah, this has been super interesting development. I was kind of curious how it was going to go, but we've actually got some top level, at least some high level competition in here. As far as it's going to be pretty tough to keep three going straight. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hype on this. If you guys notice the Vlasic jar over there, one of Logan's favorite delicacies of this world is the humble pickle. So he brings a jar to his game for good luck as an omen today. Or actually, I believe it was a gift from his Dicehammer fellow friend here.
You know, I was going to ask about that, but you know, when somebody just walks around with a jar of pickles, sometimes you just don't ask.
You just don't.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, as deployment's developing here, it looks like we're taking on some opposing edges here. Daniel's committed his Poxwalkers to his far piece of obscuring ruins back there. And then he's got some Nurglings in the other one. Logan has some company vets down, and they're both kind of trying to put their less consequential drops down first in order to hopefully gain a bead on their opponent and hope they commit something a little bit more defining, and so they have a little bit of information going on.
So I did notice that Logan brought 2 small units, the servitors and the company vets. Are they there explicitly to capture objectives and perform actions?
Well, Logan's army is a plotting Gravis army that just does insane amounts of damage. So he kind of moves forward almost like a bulldozer, and nothing really is incentivized, as you can tell by Daniel's secondary picks. Nothing's incentivized to really come forward and even try to jump over that unless you're a high mobility army. So in a lot of games, it's really safe for him to take the most minuscule, minimum, inconsequential unit he can to just park and cover on one of his backfield objectives or 2 of his backfield objectives and really just be the least amount of his force as possible so that he can put more guns on the table. And that's really kind of what causes him to not need OBSEC in one of the many ways that causes him to not need a lot of OBSEC. And also, I think it's important to note that not a lot of Salamanders are doing exactly what Logan does, too. He just implements his game plan so well. At the last GT I attended, I actually went up against a Salamanders player, and it was a much different look than I've seen from him. And you see a more traditional Marine approach. There's still going to be the staples, the aggressors. There's still going to be the eradicators. But, you know, a lot of people don't go the way that Logan goes, and they feel like the intercessors are important and infiltrators are still there, and they're taking Vanguard vets and their Salamanders. And you're looking at a lot of players that opt for a much more versatile approach. Logan's just all in on this, but he's had a lot of success with it, and he's a really tough guy to beat with it. To answer a question in the chat, how have the Salamanders held up in the competitive scene? The answer is in an amazing fashion. And the reason is because Ninth is a game that's a lot about board control. In the competitive sense, it's a lot about being able to win the primary. That matters a lot. And the thing is with the Salamanders is they have just so much efficiency at dealing damage. I'm not sure that there's another force other than maybe AdMech with Mars that are going to be dealing as much damage as they can just flat out in the shooting phase. So they're in a really good place. They're still getting podium positions in a lot of events, even GTs. So Salamanders are a great army to play. They're a force you need to plan for if you ever plan to compete in the current meta situation in the state of the game that we're in right now, because you know they're going to show up. They're a great army.
So what do you think about this particular matchup between Salamanders and Deathguard? Is that an even matchup? Do you feel that one side has an advantage over the other?
I think, honestly, what I think is that and I don't play these armies in either way, but it really seems like the secondary picks are what matter a lot here, because Salamanders do have the damage to punch through even Deathguard. But Deathguard also are resilient enough to where they can limit a lot of the things that Salamanders do. So it kind of comes down to who's going to have a little bit better of the force side of the game. If you look at it and you pick the right secondaries for how you think the game's going to play, I think that it really is a pretty even matchup in this sense. And I think that it's really going to boil down to secondary pick and game plan more than anything else.
Gotcha. Now, as we saw earlier, Logan does have a high volume of multi-melta shots. Do you think that's going to be, this particular deployment is going to be a disadvantage for Daniel then? All right, we've got a special guest today.
Yeah, let me introduce you guys to, this is Junior. Junior just won a GT. He plays for Team Zero Comp, who is killing it in the ITC circuit right now. We're going to bring him in here and get his opinion, just kind of what he thinks of the matchup and what he thinks on the game in general. What's up, Junior? Say what's going on.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Right on, right on. So Junior, we got Logan with Vanguard Tactics. He's throwing down against some deathguard here from Dicehammer. You've got a lot of experience. What do you think are some of the keys in this matchup for success each way? What do you think is really important?
Yeah, well, actually, I played both of these guys and recently too. Logan from Vanguard Tactics. I just played him on Sunday at the GT. The key here is to be super aggressive. His troops are kind of slow. He has everything walking other than probably, I think, his Inceptors deep striking, most likely. But he's got to be super aggressive. Everything on his weapons are assault, so moving and advancing up the board, especially when there's 6 objectives. Salamanders don't have a lot of units. He combat squads, so I think it's going to be important for him to cover the board, especially in the mid board, because he has a lot of 24-inch range or moving assault 18 inches, right, with his flamer dudes.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely has the ability, even with all that assault, to really, in the tactical doctrine, put down a lot of hurt on the death guard. Interesting thing here that they both took pretty cagey secondaries. They both have While We Stand, We Fight, and they both have banners. And then Logan ended up opting for Assassinate, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I believe Daniel's second one is Engage, because he actually has some bloat drones to move around in a little bit different look. What do you think about that as the game plan? It kind of seems like they have some cagey secondaries, huh?
Yeah, it sounds like they want to stay away from each other, really.
Right.
They're not gonna want to be aggressive to move up and get those banners. So again, it becomes even more important to start moving, advancing, get up the board. Start engaging early and try to remove those banners, because looking at the deployment, they can just sit there on 2 objectives and get at least 10 on banners if they don't make a move. And if you want to limit the other person's points, you're going to have to move up and take the opponent's objective markers.
Right,
So,
yeah, very good observation. Now, regarding the Death Guard here with Daniel, what he's doing, what do you think some success when you see such a high damage output in front of you as Death Guard? What are you thinking are some keys to Death Guard to win here? What do you think is important in this matchup from the other side?
Yeah, so for Daniel, he's got, I don't know his exact list now. I'm just kind of walking in right
He's
now.
pulling he's got a big blob of Blightlord Terminators.
He's ranking or no?
I believe they're on the table.
Okay.
And he's got 2 Plague Burst Crawlers that he's going to obviously be shelling with. He's got the 2 Contemptors with the Tallyman, because he wants to get those exploding 6s.
Nice.
And then he's
only bringing
running...
one Contemptor.
What's that?
I think he's only bringing 1 Contemptor.
Oh, he might have just brought 1. And then he's bringing a couple of bloat drones of a shooty kind of variant to have some real mobility and to flex around if he needs to. And then the big unit of Poxwalkers is kind of where he's at.
Okay. Well, for Daniel then, I would say he's not going to be able to cover the entire board, but if he can take his 2 objectives and just focus on taking off let's say the left side of the opponent's zone there, so where he's controlling pretty much like 4 objectives the entire time.
Right.
That's going to be key for him. So moving up those bloat drones to take out the opponent's objective marker there, advancing up the Poxwalkers to cover the mid board, and then using his Terminators to just mow down as much aggressors as possible.
Yeah,
he's going to have to charge the Poxwalkers.
Yeah, those guys can put out...
That's going to be tough.
They can put out some damage, man. That's the thing about those Poxwalkers. They're a unit that's in a real great state right now. And I think what you said is key, because a lot of people that, as you fight Salamanders, you kind of especially want to move around them while you still kind of try to outrange things like the aggressors and stuff, and kind of take the board around them and really pin them into one area, right?
Yep. And use those Plague Burst Crawlers to just shoot on on the objectives, because if you force Logan to go backwards to try to get his own objectives, that's going to be a big win for the Death Guard. So, don't necessarily shoot the things that are in front of you. Shoot the things that are in the back, and make them go backwards.
Yeah, you have to commit to win the primary, otherwise you lose it. Yeah, amazing, Junior. Amazing. Right on. What's your prediction? I want to hear your call. Who do you think's taking it? You think the Salamanders or the Death Guard?
I think Salamanders are going to take it here. Logan plays a really good game. Like I said, I just played him over the weekend, so I know what his army can do. And I faced a couple of Death Guard players already. I just think at the end of the day, they're not going to have enough to kill the Salamanders before all those flamers start just roasting everything. And then he's got the Plasma Scepters. He's not going to have to overcharge on those Terminators, but making them take a bunch of saves on 4-ups, that's going to be key.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, hey, Junior, we got this one question from chat here. It says, how much do you think that the PBC's ignoring line of sight is going to influence both players wanting to play a less committal primary game? What are your thoughts on that? As far as the indirect fire making them commit a little less to the primary, do you think that's going to be a factor, or do you think it's not? The Salamanders are going to be able to wade right through it?
They're going to wade right through it. Most of his stuff is toughness 5, so he's going to be wounding on 3s. At the end of the day, the primaries are hold 1, hold 2, and then hold more. So you're going to be able to get at least 40 by just holding 2 the entire time.
Right.
So if those PVCs can, again, knock out like those company vets, because I know Logan's going to keep the servitors, company vets on the objectives. So if he can just take those things out early and make them use, aggressors or
Eradicators to hold the primary,
Yeah, then that's going to be key. So hopefully Daniel gets smart with it and takes out those units first with the Plague Burst Crawlers.
Right on, right on. All right, Junior, as always, we appreciate it, guys. It was kind of a little treat to have him on here. Keep an eye on him on the ITC circuit. He's crushing it this year, and we expect great things from you, Junior, coming through. And we'll try to get him back here if we can.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Thank
Junior.
you.
Later, guys.
All right, we had another question coming from chat. Daniel's Death Guard list does not contain Mortarion, and it did not last time either. Do you think that Mortarion is falling out of the meta, or just not a pick in this particular list?
Well, that's an interesting question. A big thing to think about with Mortarion is, in a competitive sense, Logan's army is a perfect example of how Mortarion kind of sizes up right now, because there's just so many armies out there that can kill that model or cripple him to enough to where he's not a factor in the game. And also having to soup with Death Guard to be able to get him to move twice with warp time really disincentivizes him, because a lot of people, if you look at that, if I saw that against me, I know I would take cut off the head instantly. And if you can kill that guy in turn 1 or 2, that's 10 points, and they lose 25% of their army.
Yeah.
So I guess it really boils down to how you're going to implement him. You see a lot of success with Mortarion, but that's when there's a lot of other similar threats with him. Like I know you saw TJ Lanigan running a variant with like Magnus Mortarion and the Lord of Change as the Warlord, and then it's like so many large models that it's tough. So that's the response to that in the question for chat.
I see that both players are stacking up their dreadnoughts on opposite sides of the board here.
Yeah, they're both respecting one another's firepower. They both understand that it's going to be a tricky game here. I think Daniel's looking good. His fire support is pretty well spread here. He's not committed too much into one spot, which plays a little bit better into Salamanders, because just like Junior was saying, or like we pointed out in the beginning, that the key to this is making him spread out. And I think that what Junior said is spot on. It's what I would do if I was in Daniel's shoes. I would really be trying to take out those small units and really. You want to punish the Marines as they spread out and have to overextend. So we will see. So if you'll notice right now, one key thing that a lot of guys are doing right now for a lot of you guys that aren't used to it, they're mapping out the maximum potential threat ranges, including movement for a lot of the units as they deploy. Logan's making very well-informed decisions on where he's positioning things, and as he measures it, he's positioning stuff in a way that it can never be hit by something because he's measured it to the maximum. And it helps you clean up your movement, clean up your deployment, and all of the key aspects of your gameplay. So it's just you and your opponent, but I measured this. Hey, he can go 12 inches. Yeah, and then what's the range of his entropy cannons? It's this far. Okay, so you add that to the movement and then deploy outside of it, and then it's a pretty solid play. I know it sounds like something that you would just do naturally, but a lot of that's one of those small nuances that really brings your gameplay up.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, so Logan's putting one of his key characters down right there behind the more regressed Bruin. He's putting his Vulcan Heston. Vulcan gives full rerolls to a unit in the command phase. So he can give that to a unit and just send it out every turn, and that's a really essential thing to have for efficiency. You always keep that in mind when you see Marine players. Those rerolls are huge. Alrighty, so it looks like Daniel is deployed. He's pretty well spread out. he's you can kind of tell that he's got his Plague Burst Crawlers off to one side. He's got his Contemptor and his Poxwalkers off to the other. Logan's kind of mirroring that in a way, so it seems like they've both kind of chosen which way they want to go. I've seen a lot of times in this particular mission, because you have two sets of a straight line of your objectives, that a lot of guys want to kind of racetrack one side, and they'll really deploy heavy to one particular favoring flank and try to grab all three on that one. Ooh. Logan rolls a 6 for the go first. Daniel matches with the 6. All right, Daniel rolls into a 3. The suspense. Oh, and they got a 3. A 6 to a 6, then a 3 to a 3. The suspense is winding up here at Onboard Games. Oh boy. Alrighty, so the Salamanders have won the first turn. It's been an interesting thing. At the beginning of 9th edition, Eric, they were saying that the go first win rate, there was a lot of speculation on how, as the game evolved, going first really meant you were going to win in a lot of ways.
Right.
Some people felt it really heavily. Some people thought it was pretty dependent on some other factors, but it was pretty guaranteed. With the changes to going second now, a lot of people actually really favor going second because of the ability to pick back up on primaries at the end of the game and really change the game in the last turn.
Yeah, I remember seeing a lot of statistical data on that, and with COVID and everything, it's hard to get large volumes of that to really do something reliable, but there was a certain percentage chance that you had advantage of going first, and I haven't seen any new numbers really since the primary change on the last round has gone into effect. But I'm interested to see the difference and see if they can get that down. What do you think is like an acceptable margin for that? Like, do you want it exactly? Obviously, we want exactly 50-50, but if it gets down to like a 1% margin of error, is that sufficient, or do you think that GW is going to need to come up with some other balancing mechanic to try and even that out?
Well, I think that's such a tough one because it's so evolving, and the game we play evolves, the additions evolve, the missions evolve, and all that. So it's really tough to say. In the current state of the game, I think I read something that was somewhere around the 5% is a pretty acceptable percentage of go first as opposed to go second. But don't quote me on that. I think that I really like the game in the state it is now, and I've always kind of felt like there's a lot of factors that go into it. I personally love going second. I almost want to go second every time because the game develops and you can plan for that and really swing the game with end-to-turn scoring. I think that's crazy. So yeah, I think it's we're getting closer, I think.
Yeah.
To answer a question in chat, the mission is Scorched Earth. It is a Dawn of War setup. It's mission number 12 in the chapter approved mission pack. It's a take and hold, which means it's hold one, hold many, and hold more. And the secondary is Raise, which is widely considered a pretty bad one. Almost nobody takes Raise. You can in the enemy's deployment zone, if you destroy what you perform the action, you can take away one of their objectives, and if you do that, it's worth 6 for 1 and 12 for 2. So most people aren't taking it. As you can see, both Logan and Daniel chose not to take it.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty bad one.
It's a pretty bad one. Very specific. So
a little bit difficult to pull off, and even if you do, you get 12 points.
Right. Which is interesting because I've even seen people starting to lean away from scramblers for that reason. As the game evolves, that guaranteed to not get 5 points on one of the secondaries is tough.
Mm-hmm.
So Logan's doing one thing that's interesting, and I like, and I kind of picked it up from him a little bit. But a lot of really, really high-level players, they really talk out what they're doing to themselves, and also even to your opponent, because it's not going to be super consequential. I know some people have disagreed with it, but I think that it's really awesome when you kind of talk out what you're going to do, and really just verbalize your game plan, because it really puts it into practice for you and lets you get a real definite battle plan for that turn. And once again, it's in a perfect world, your mental capacity is able to just compute everything perfectly. But sometimes when you say it out loud and kind of say what you're going to do, it really helps.
Yeah, and it also lets your opponent know exactly what your intentions are, and you can kind of discuss what's going on. I played Joel several times, and he's very good about calling out exactly what he's trying to do and where he's moving and why and all these other things. And I felt it useful for me as a player to learn why people are doing different things, so that I can sort of just understand and be a better player myself.
Yep. So Logan's kind of mapping out his game plan right now and what he's how he plans to move. He's asking some key questions, about some stratagems that will affect the firepower if he moves. And he's, like I said, he's mapping out really kind of what he's doing. He's really kind of game planning how he can advantageously position these contemptors and prioritize which targets he's trying to fire at, and how he can impose the best turn 1 impact on the game.
He's trying to draw a bead on that second Plague Burst Crawler, the one to the right, as well as some other stuff behind that building. Daniel's done a pretty good job of keeping things out of line of sight, but there may be a sliver in there. If he moves his bikes up, might be able to get some multi-melta shots back there. The PBC up in the top left, though, I think is a little bit exposed, and it's going to be eating a lot of melta shots here in a few minutes.
We'll see if he can get the range on it. The thing is, a PBC being exposed like that can almost be a trap, because Daniel could be putting that there and really trying to bait out some movement that can really get punished, because a lot of Salamanders players, because their weaponry is so efficient, they want to just lay it downfield and let something have it as early as possible. And a Plague Burst Crawler is not easy to take down by any rates. So it could be a tactical maneuver here to try to get the Salamanders over here to expose themselves.
No, that is an excellent point. If Logan maneuvers in such a way that he gets in range of those things, yes, he's basically going to be out of cover, out in the middle of the board. And if he fails to do sufficient damage, he's going to be right in striking range of everything over in that corner.
Right. Now, I think that Daniel kind of purposely, if you notice, he had a couple spots where he could have put that thing that would have been completely hidden. I think he kind of wanted it there because he knows, just like you're seeing right now, some of Logan's key units and his key mobility are going to come out and really try to capitalize on that. And if he can get the job done, that's fine. If he can't, the Demon Prince is right there. He's got a couple stratagems that can really heal up the Demon Engines. And he can also, his counterattack will be pretty hefty. He's got some real mobility in those drones behind that. Mm-hmm. So he can go 12 inches in there, the shooty drones. So they have some decent guns, and some 3 bikes probably aren't going to hold up to some big gun firepower.
So we got a question from chat. How do you think the change to the dice roll for deciding who goes first has affected list building and stuff?
I think that the dice roll, I like it better because it takes away choosing to go first. It kind of puts it to where you have to build for both scenarios. You can't really, you shouldn't really be building a list based on your initial dice roll anyways. I've always felt like if you build a list that is capable of going second well, then it's going to be capable of going first as well. So I think you'll be looking solid there. So I think that my retort to that is that you really kind of want to, if you're looking to take a list against all comers and really take a list to heights in a competitive sense, you really do want to tailor it towards being able to be successful in both. I think that the dice roll is better now for that sense. You understand that you have to go one or either way. So Logan has just spent a CP for a reroll.
That was missile shots. And we're now firing Volkites. These are going into the PBC, I believe.
Ooh.
Jeez. So he takes 3 damage, 3 regular damage and 2 mortal wounds on the PBC from that volley from the Contemptor.
So as we can see that we're really going to put the durability of the Plague Burst Crawler up to the test here. Although he's shooting Volkite here, which is kind of interesting because he's really banking on the mortal wounds, and he's kind of just praying that Daniel fails his saves, which happened in the last one. That was pretty bad. He failed 3 of 3 saves.
Yeah, that was
That's so unfortunate. But he'll be all right. He's getting kind of what he wants here because I think that if he doesn't kill this,
Oof.
Oh.
Those 2 missiles went straight through. No saves, 9 damage. No explosion, PVC down.
As you can hear from the sigh, Daniel is pretty upset about that one. However, I don't know how bad of a spot he's in because that's a lot of firepower committed to the real fringe side of the board.
Right.
I'm curious.
Currently ranging out the attack bike multi-meltas, trying to see if they actually do have line of sight on the PVC behind the building here.
As we can tell, Daniel is not happy about that. There's some commentary in there that is, we'll just say he's expressing dismay. It was a little bit of a bold deployment, though. Like we said, you pointed that out earlier, and I think that he kind of got what he was hoping for. I think he really needed to not fail 3 of those armor saves because that was a lot of damage that went through that probably he was banking on maybe trickling a wound or 2 through. That's the gamble you take with the Contemptors. The Contemptors are death by volume.
And eating those 2 missile shots for 9 damage was just extremely unfortunate.
Yeah. So we're moving on to Daniel's turn. Looks like there's Logan has 2 banners up, obviously in his home zone. Daniel has mirrored it. He's done the same thing. It's going to be pretty tough for each of them to get the banners off of those objectives. We'll see. I think it's going to be real important for Daniel here to really have an answer for those attack bikes right now. Those have to go because those are going to move forward and start really taking away his movement.
So Daniel actually lucked out a little bit on this last turn in that those attack bikes really didn't do anything. They were not able to draw line of sight on the Plagueburst crawler behind the building there, and they moved, but effectively their firepower is wasted. So we'll see if he can make that up a little bit.
So Daniel's using his Nurglings. Now that Logan's committed over there, he's really trying to make a little wall of annoyance that it's going to encumber all of that stuff and really pin that stuff over there, which is a good thing. It's committing that stuff over there makes it to where he's going to stay there, and then Daniel's going to try to punish him. I imagine with some return fire. Like I said, I think it's going to be really crucial that he drops those bikes, and then that flank will be pretty safe. Interesting. So Daniel's moving out here. He's moving the Demon Prince because he's going to try to keep him screened, but he also wants to provide those rerolls. Let's see what he's trying to do. I think he's trying to gather some line of sight here because like I said, he really wants to drop those bikes. Those bikes are the real only fast-moving implementation of the Melta weapons that Logan has. So if he can take those out early, it puts him in a real strategic advantage as far as movement's concerned. Because then he'll have the drones, he'll have some Nurglings, and some things running around that are going to be a little bit faster than what Logan has. I'm not sure. Daniel might be experiencing a little bit of tilt. You can tell he didn't expect to lose that crawler. He was, like I said, it was a high risk. It was a daring gambit, huh?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what he's doing with that Demon Prince up in the top.
So I think what he's trying to do, he moves the Demon Prince first, and that allows him, if the Demon Prince had remained stationary, then by physical nature, the crawler wouldn't have been able to move. I think he wants to see about getting those entropy cannons in to be able to really take out the bikers, or maybe draw a bead over to one of those contemptors, because they're really good. They're essentially like a melta. So a lot of people think about the Plague Burst Caller and they only think about the mortar, but the mortar is one of the least damaging weapons that it has. I think he's trying to figure out how he can best position the Demon Prince in order to move over and draw line of sight down that far corner and answer back. Because I think he feels... Yep.
Yeah, I see. He's lining it up right now.
And yeah, it's a real key thing. You always typically want to move your characters first and then plan your movement around that, because they're going to be the most pivotal thing in your game plan. Sometimes you can get really carried away and move the units first, but then your character won't be able to either get in position or you might be just out. So you kind of move him, position him, and play around that maneuver. There we go. Yep, see that? He's trying to move him out. He's going to maximize the rerolls from the Demon Prince. I believe the bloat drones, I'll get a double check in a second here, but I believe they're demon engines, as well as the PBC. So the Nurgle Demon Prince is going to be able, they all have the keyword Nurgle as well, so I believe they should be able to get the reroll of ones from the Prince.
All right, moving right into shooting phase. Electing shots on the aggressor and seeing if he wants to use transhuman.
This is a very important thing here, because notice how Daniel said that. It's a very strategic play to put that into your opponent's mind right away. So if now that Daniel's been able to bait out on essentially the first volley of anything where the transhuman is, he can effectively shoot around it. Daniel spends 1 CP to re-roll that dice for 3 damage. Ooh. There you go. So Daniel actually comes up in shots, because with the Tallyman right there, it actually pushes Contemptors over the edge. They have 6s explode, and also they hit on 2s. It's a really powerful thing in combination with that unit right now. Oof. So that Contemptor is doing some solid work. Yep. Already taken down 1 aggressor. In a Marine list, you can see over there the Apothecary's there. He really needs to do more damage than that to meaningfully affect it.
Right. So it was 7 AP nothings that were all bounced, and then 3 mortal wounds off that.
Daniel put some early hurt on those aggressors, which is good. Not really impactful right now, but that is something in Salamanders. If you can take those away, it really changes the way you can play in the midfield, which is super important. There we go. So as we can see, Daniel's trying to take out these attack bikes. I believe these are the drones firing in.
Right.
See, so he's castled around that Demon Prince, which is letting him reroll the ones for all of those vehicles right there. He's umbrellaing over all of that stuff.
All right.
There
Another
we
bike
go.
off the board. One remaining.
So if Daniel can kill these bikes, that's going to be real. That's going to make that flank real interesting.
Yeah. Now, Logan did take a relic on his lieutenant, which allows him to have a 6 of feel no pain on everything within 6 inches, which included those bikes. So that's why he's rolling feel no pains on those.
So we got a question from chat asking, what are people's thoughts on aggressors versus the Blade Guard veterans? Similar roles, but not exactly the same. The thing is with Salamanders is because of their ability to ignore the AP -1 and to also have access to the +1 to wound on Flame and Melta in the tactical doctrine, you really get obscene amounts of value out of those flamers, and it really deters a lot of. They can do a lot of things that nobody else can do with that unit. They're almost exclusively viable in Salamanders. Nobody else is bringing Flamestorm aggressors or any aggressors at that point. And then the ability to, with all of their stratagems, to Overwatch for another unit, to Overwatch twice, to use immolation protocols and shoot their flamers as pistols. It's just such an absurd unit.
Absolutely devastating.
And then they have the stratagem that lets them max their shots. It's ridiculous. So like, it's absurd. Nice. Daniel succeeded in getting those attack bikes. So that was the PBC firing back into there. So Daniel ended his turn. He just pretty much raised the 2 banners. He's not going to be engaging because those Nurglings are kind of right on the line. They do have to be wholly within. And it passes to Logan. And Logan is going to score his primary. I got to get a bead on what it was.
So we're looking at 10 primary?
Yeah, it's looking like Logan's going to hold 2 objectives, 10 primary. He's also going to score 2 banners at his command phase. So he'll have a grand total of 10 rolling into this. And then what else did he take? He took Assassinate, which he's getting nothing on right now. And he took While We Stand, We Fight. So that one will not score till the end.
Should he have 12? 10 or 10 for primaries and then 2 for banners?
Yes. Yes. Alrighty. So it looks like also So Logan is trying to really dictate the second turn by denial. He's trying to really shut down what's happening and what Daniel has for options. He's going to do that with really maximizing his firing lanes and really disincentivizing Daniel to go in certain spots.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit curious. For Logan's first turn, all of the units in the bottom right side just pretty much hung out.
Yeah, because right now Logan's playing, and you'll see this with a lot of the really high end players. You'll see a really cagey first two turns. These players, both of these players are really good. They know that they're going to be able to make up the primary, and if their game plan goes well, they'll make it up in the end of the game. And they really don't overextend in the beginning. A lot of people have a theory that you kind of want to just in a hold one, hold two. If you can just hold on to two objectives for most of the game, and then just have one turn where you really cause a swing, you're good on your primary. So a lot that'll differentiate a lot. You'll never see the real competitive players overextending onto 3 objectives and 4 objectives in the early game. A lot of times you'll see them just park onto 1 in the early game because they're confident that they can come back and get 2 15-point turns.
Right.
So Logan's deciding who he wants to give his rerolls to because it's important on his selection from Vulcan who he gives those rerolls to. He also, keep in mind, he has the Inceptors that are going to drop down, and that's a real vital point of in his army. He's going to try to drop and really just blast something off the board, and then it's going to be a real issue for Daniel to have to deal with. That's why you saw a really cagey turn. And I mean, let's see how it plays out here. A big issue in a list like this is being able to mitigate the options for those Plasma Inceptors coming down. With that much damage, it's crazy. They are a much less effective against deathguard.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they do lose a lot of their efficiency there. Do you think he's going to drop them this turn, or wait till turn 3?
I think that Logan's going to definitely want them on the board this first turn. I think that Logan's going to try to move up here and really just establish a denial type of game. And I think that he's going to want the Inceptors. The Inceptors aren't necessarily vital to Logan winning the game as much as some of the other stuff is, especially the Gravis things. They kind of come in and just mess up the game plan and really just, against most armies, they just put such a beating on one unit. They just try to come in and kind of, dictate a lot of the midfield. It'll change the climate of the game with just their drop, so it's really important.
So with the current layout, where would you drop those?
I think that Logan was it depends, because the Plasma Inceptors, it's an expensive unit. You can't just put them out there to get retaliated against. He doesn't want to get charged by anything with that unit. Definitely doesn't want to get shot by the Contemptor and anything else. So I think if he's going to put him somewhere, he might put him somewhere kind of mid-board to get a beat on something, but also be pretty safe, getting shot at through dense back and a lot of the stuff like that. So I'm thinking somewhere in the midfield, maybe around one of these 2 woods is going to be his best bet.
Is there a particular priority target he should be gunning for there?
Hard to say. It depends on, kind of what's going on. If he's going off to the left side, those vehicles are going to be most of Daniel's real damage right now. He's probably going to really be trying to go for them, but I don't know if the Inceptors are going to be the best tool for that. The Inceptors will benefit a lot against the Poxwalkers, and that can be a real hard counter there because they are a lone wound, so disgustingly resilient loses a lot of value, and their blast, keep that in mind. Right. So 20 Poxwalkers are going to get hit with 30 to 35 shots. Automatically. So he can really put them by that wood by objective 5 and really hey man, do you really want to come out here?
Yeah, no, that's totally true. Yeah, the Plasma Inceptor's guns being blast is just, it really just puts a hurt on anything that's over 10 models.
Right. Imagine a Dark Angel. It's weapons of the Dark Age, so they could be 3 damage.
Ooh, rough. Sorry, anything over 5 models.
Yeah, because they're only D3, so if somebody has 6 or more, you're going to punish it.
Mm-hmm. I had not actually played against Plasma Inceptors until somebody deep struck them and took out my 20 warrior blobs with absolutely no problem
They're
at all.
so effective against Necron warriors right now. That's one of the things that the Necron players really don't want to be seeing is just, man, and they're AP3, so the Necrons aren't getting a
No
save.
nothing.
And if you can get a decent hit, and Space Marines have tons of rerolls.
Right.
So, you can really pump it up to where they can just...
Yeah. If you don't have an invul on those guys, it's game over.
Luckily, they're bringing the Chronomancers typically, so they do have the invul, which is like the
Right.
only thing. Otherwise, that whole unit, just
yeah,
pick
it's
them up.
just gone. Yeah. Don't even roll. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So right now, Logan's really, he's asking Daniel a couple of essential questions about what he can do with the Terminators that are deep striking right now as well, because that's going to be another big dictating unit in the game. And what Logan doesn't want to do is drop his Inceptors or expose himself needlessly and then have a counterattack from a big blob of Terminators that's going to cause a real big issue.
Spacing those models out to make sure you can take advantage of auras.
Yeah, he's got Vulcan down there. He's got the Apothecary. So there's plenty of auras going on. He wants his reroll ones for the captain rerolls, and I think Vulcan might be a chapter master, so he's going to be full hit rerolls. He also wants the 6 of Feel No Pain because Daniel has a lot of multi-damage stuff. Marines are a very aura heavy army, so it's really one of those things that you see a lot of with that. So here we go. The Salamanders are coming out of hiding. They're moving up to take some positional advantage. I think he's also trying to really cordon off a lot of the midfield and limit where Daniel's going to want to put those. He's going to limit where Daniel's going to want to put those Terminators down because you're not going to want to drop into it against a bunch of Salamander Melta. Also keep in mind the next 2 turns are going to be super important to remember because it's the tactical doctrine, and when Salamanders are in the tactical doctrine, all of their Flame and Melta weapons are +1 to wound. That is
so good.
really bonkers. So it's essentially free veterans of the Long War.
Right.
Pretty intense.
And I did look up Vulcan's stats. So he does have Rights of Battle, it's basic Captain Aura.
Captain Aura, okay.
But he also has Forge Father for Salamander's core or character units within 6 inches.
There it is.
They can reroll for Flame or Melta weapons, reroll attack rolls and wound rolls.
So he gives full rerolls to Flames and Melta, which are +1 to wound right now. And then he also has the Captain's reroll aura as well. Vulcan is a bad man. You don't want to be dealing with that. So Daniel's Blight Lords are not going to want to drop there and be exposed to any of that potency, especially with an Auspex scan. So it seems like Logan's really trying to positionally bully the middle of the board in those areas. No place is awesome to drop.
And to answer the question in chat, he's bringing Blight Lord Terminators, not Death Shroud Terminators. He has 10 block of them. Very carefully positioning those models to take advantage of the auras from the Apothecary and from Vulcan. Speaking of Apothecary,
there he is. all right, for you in chat, who are you rooting for today?
Daniel's Death Guard or the Challenger Logan and his Salamanders?
Man, that's a rough one. I like both these guys. They're both solid players. They're both really good opponents as far as sportsmanship and stuff too, which really matters a lot. Hard to say. I just like I like to root for the underdog, and though Daniel is the champion, it's really the Salamanders fight, unless you have a lot of experience, is a hard fight. So I'm going for these servants of chaos here. I'm going for the Death Guard.
All right, looks like Logan is ranging out where to put these plasma inceptors.
So we've got some loyalists versus heretic smack talk going on, fretfully, of course. Ooh. So we're seeing some eradicators, it looks like, going down.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, which is interesting. We were worried about the Inceptors, but I mean, it looks like Daniel left himself exposed a little bit to that. Oh no, are they both going to go down right there?
Dropping outside of 12, so he does not. Oh, I guess he doesn't have any off-spec scan, no.
He does not have any off-spec scan, no, but it's important to be, if he's within 12, I believe his multi-meltas are going to be much more damaging. And like we said, Logan's dropping right into the woods to get the -1 to hit.
Yep.
And he's so there's some Nurglings in there. So Daniel's trying to draw a bead to that character, and it's gonna be tricky. There you go.
Perfect. Well, we're going to abort that drop and see where else works.
Yeah, so Daniel did a good job with those Nurglings.
Yeah.
Looks like Logan is going to go real in on these. Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
So it looks like we're going to trade up right here for victory points. Ooh, Daniel moved left and opened himself up. Like I said, he might have been a little tilted from losing that that PBC. You know, it's one of those things that happens when you take a devastating blow and you didn't expect it. It can really, you know, change your game a little bit. You know, that's one of the things that really separates. You know, it can really dictate tournaments and stuff like that in a lot of ways. We got a lot of people rooting for the Death Guard in chat here. So we're just kind of adjusting some position here. He's trying to really make sure that he can get a couple.
He's trying really hard to line up those Eradicators to blast that Dreadnought off the board.
I think if even one. Keep in mind, once again, we're tactical doctrine here. So +1 to wounds. So he's probably wounding that thing on 2s.
Yep. What about those plasma inceptors? What do you think his target is there? He's going to have a line on the PVCs, on the drones, and then anything behind that building. I see a model popping out there, but I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, I think he's because of the nature of the secondary. I think that every character that gets dropped here is a big deal. They both have While We Stand. They both have banners, so they're going to essentially mirror each other there, depending on how much damage the other ones take. I think that the character is going to be a big deal here as far as the swing.
Yep.
And if he starts gaining ground on that secondary, it's going to further snowball his game plan, because then Daniel's only choice is going to be to win on primary, and that's a tall order walking into a Salamander gunline and tactical doctrine.
Right. Now we know that Daniel does have. Oh, what?
I get that. Looks like there's something funny in chat here. What is that? Man, it looks like we have a heretical prayer up in here in the channel from one of our followers. It says, Father Nurgle, please.
Oh, I got it.
Father Nurgle, please bless Daniel with the strength to defeat these big, dumb, firing guys. Nicely done. So as you can tell, this phase is one of the end of the movement step can be one of the most methodical and intricate steps of a game. Warhammer is really interesting. It's it's one of those games that, the shooting phase and a lot of things that interact with the dice, you don't really have control over all the time. You can influence it, but you don't have absolute control. The movement phase is the one phase you have absolute control over, and you can also, really dictate a lot there. So that's what, a lot of the top guys, even Junior himself, say that that's the most important phase in the whole game, and what you can do. So as you can see, Logan really cuts no corners when he's trying to positionally make every advantageous move he can and gain everything from each movement.
So we do know that Daniel does have an ability that will shut down reroll auras. He took it on one of his characters, but I'm just looking at how things are laid out right now. I don't know that he's going to be able to get in range to make that even a deal.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if Logan goes over there with those Inceptors and gets that one character, granted it will be 3 CP, VP I mean, rather, but if he gets a counter attack and loses those Inceptors, that's all of his mobility.
Right.
So then it's a really static game state, which is really going to help him. So he almost maybe... well, we'll see. I mean, and also I need to be able to see out of that ruin. We'll take a look in a moment here. But if that's the only, he could be going to do that because it also nets him 3 VP and swings the game. If that's the only model on that objective, then that's going to swing the game pretty heavily in the early turn. All right, so we're kicking off the shooting phase. The first, rightmost on the screen, the first Contemptor is going into the Plague Burst Crawler with 1 Volkite and both of the missiles, and then he's shooting 1 Volkite into the Nurglings to try to remove some of the Nurglings there.
And to answer chat, Logan had 1 attack bike squadron, which was deployed on the center left, and it was destroyed.
Always the first thing when you see attack bikes, you got to get them down.
Yeah. It's a cheap platform that carries molten meltas and is fast. I mean, you got to get rid of it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, like we said before, a big key to winning this matchup as anybody against the Salamanders or any Gravis army like this that's really shooty is you need to really just simplify the board state. You really need to take away a lot of those auxiliary units and the stuff that moves for them, because once you have only the plotting Gravis stuff, you can kind of avoid it and do a little bit of a hit and run kind of thing.
Daniel taking some damage on the PBC in the top left. Volkites are firing into it now.
Eight wounds on the Nurglings. Oh my goodness, he did some solid saving there. Nurgling's still alive, holding it down. He's going to force some fire there, which is awesome. Now, I do believe there's still some aggressors down there, which he might go there next to try to just remove that base. 1 aggressor might be enough to do it.
Eradicators in the bottom, 3-man squad firing at the Contemptor in the top right.
Oh man, he hit them all and wounding on 2s.
Wounding on 2s, man, so good. Spending a CP for command reroll. 7 damage out of that.
Contemptor lives from that. Oh, they get to shoot again for total annihilation. Oh, they count as moving, huh? They can't. That is right. And the cool thing is, I like the FAQ from reserves to where no matter what, you're going to always count as moving. Because
Right.
Space Marines have the stratagem where they can make you count as stationary. No more cheeky nonsense where you could drop in, count as stationary, and shoot twice with the Eradicators. Sounds fair and balanced to me.
Ooh. Rolling damage. All right, so that was the center right squad of eliminators firing into the Contemptor. He only was able to get one through, but it was enough damage to kill it. No explosion.
So Daniel has lost a decent amount of his firepower right now. I believe Logan is down to, what is he at? 3 CP, I think, now. We're going to confirm on that. Obviously, in the Tactical Doctrine, that's where Logan's wanting to spend most of his CP here. Threes and twos here.
Yep, so that there was only a single character back there on that objective, and he is no more.
Yeah, and that's a big punishment right there from Logan. I felt it before sometimes when you know, I think that being tilted a little bit caused him to shift off to the right-hand side with all of that stuff, and it left a gap that he kind of, I don't think he realized it either. I could be wrong. We'll ask him on the break. But I think leaving that character exposed, he wasn't exposed beforehand. That's a big hit right there. That's going to swing the primary to a... Let's see what he can do. If he can't remove that Nurgling, Daniel might be able to recover. We'll see. Okay, I think he got the Nurgling gone right here. Yep, and Logan knew he just needed to get that guy gone. So this is going to relegate Daniel to a 5-point turn. That's going to be rough. So Daniel's going to gain 2 because his Tallyman's going to also grant him 1 more for roll exceeding a 7 on the dice. Let's see, Daniel should score 5 and 2 for the banners. I believe it's going to be 7 points here. Let's see what Daniel's going to do here. He's trying to advance. He's got to get back onto that objective. Yep. So now at least Daniel knows the board state. He doesn't have to worry about anything else coming down here. Let's see. We got a couple of aggressors on each side. I'm curious what Daniel does with these Poxwalkers. The Poxwalkers can get in there, and because of their abilities, they can actually do a decent amount of damage to these 2 big elite units because they automatically wound, I believe, on 6s, and they re-roll. Let me double check here their data sheet, but they can be tough, and that would be a good thing to bog down some units. However, you got to be... Just got to worry about... Let's see... Poxwalkers. Alrighty. So yeah, I think the Poxwalkers are going to move up ahead and really try to put some pain down on those Eradicators over there. I'm curious how this unfolds because generally you would say that you kind of don't want to send them into the Flamers this early. Curious to see how that pans out. Daniel still has some decent mobile firepower. I wonder what he's going to do. I almost think that he kind of has to really focus on those Inceptors up there. But if those go away and he positions himself away from the Contemptors, he's looking pretty good here. I know as While We Stand, We Fight, that Plague Burst Crawler specifically is one of the targets. I believe the one he lost already was not one of them.
Yeah, he did call that out of his game. It was the better painted one.
And so, yeah, let's see what we got here. So it's definitely going to be the Blight Lords, and we'll see if Daniel even wants to bring them down this turn, because it almost benefits him. Since he went second, he can essentially drop them on turn 3 in his end of his movement phase, and that unit can completely evade the Salamanders at their strongest through the Tactical Doctrine, which is something that I do every now and again.
There may be some value in putting them on the board to create a threat that Logan's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, that's true. Could be a gamble. Oh, and the Demon Prince. And the Demon Prince is going to be hard to get to as well.
And there they go. So yeah, it looks like he is deploying the Terminators.
Oh man, here we go. That is. Let's see. Let's see what he does here. Yeah, maybe he feels like he's going to go all in. If he can take down both of those Contemptors over there, though, I don't know if the Blight Lords are really super worried about aggressor fire, especially if they can tag the cover. They're not really worried about it at all. So I think that he can bank safely that they're not going to take a lot of damage. And if he can get rid of those Contemptors, I think he might be able to actually recapture that flank. And he'll put Logan, if he can simultaneously get rid of the Inceptors and do some work down there on those things, then he will kind of have effectively taken over this side of the table, which could be really, really solid. Yep, there we go.
Definitely redeploying, his long-range firepower there. So I'm curious about the Terminators, though. When I was looking at their data sheets, they didn't seem to have sufficient or a lot of range firepower. It was Combi Bolters and the swords. So I'm not really sure how...
So one good thing that he could try to do here is, in the position, if you look at where the position is of those Contemptors, with a good charge, he'll be able to get in there and wrap that unit up and really essentially make it so those guys can't shoot for the rest of the game. And if he really wanted to get cheeky, he could trail one guy back and touch the objective as well. So it simultaneously shut down the ability of those vehicles to fire ever in this game again and touch the objective. He does have a little bit of... They asked him if he wanted to spend 2 CP to Auspex scan with his single aggressor.
Actually, with Salamanders, he might.
Yeah, right?
Into the Psychic phase. Demon Prince is smiting.
Ooh, he rolled a 10 for that, so that's going to be hard to stop.
Second smite. Goes off on a 6, 2 mortal wounds, takes out one Inceptor without firing shot.
Like I said, I think it's important. That was a good call just to bypass all that Gravis and toughness and just get one gone, because now all of those vehicles really have to he can one at a time see how much value he can get, and if he can get them both gone, that's a big deal. That's a threat that'll effectively, you dropped in, you got 3 points. They did swing the game a little bit there, but without that unit, now he'll be down his bikes and his jetpacks. He's walking the rest of the battle.
And I did get a score check from the board, so we are now 2017 Logan.
This is going to be a good game. Yeah, and I think it's going to be really tricky to get any more of the assassinate points. Daniel did kind of extend up there on the top side, really banking on those Nurglings still being there. He can pull back towards that character, but it's going to be tricky. He could be easily exposed. He does only have to worry about a couple of Melta weapons, but if any of those take out, I guess he doesn't really have much of a threat to really get him at a long range. Most that's 24 inches shooting through the woods. He kind of probably wants him shooting at the Nurglings. That's not a bad call right there. Looking over here too with those Blightlord Terminators, they all do have the Bale Swords. So at a Strength 5 with the AP -3, they can really, with some volume, they're throwing 3 attacks apiece and 4 from the champion. They could very well get a charge in there and take out both of those Terminators, or those Dreadnoughts. And if they take those things out, it's a little bit of a gamble, but if they take those things out, it's that's a big swing. Also keep in mind, another good thing about that, it's going to be multi-beneficial. If he gets that charge off, that's gonna net him engage on all fronts.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to start scoring on that. He needs to at least get 2 ticks of it to kind of compensate for the character he lost.
Daniel is firing into the leftmost Contemptor Dread. Getting that Contemptor Dread down to 6.
I think he really doesn't like those Contemptors right now.
Yeah, I would not either. I mean, that Volkite launchers, or the Culverins, they're just so good.
Yeah, the Volkite Culverins are good. It's just a lot of volume right now. 2 damage, so it's really good into a Primaris Marine meta. You're looking real solid right there.
And just being able to drop out mortal wounds like that is added bonus.
Heck yeah, look at the Slugger pop some wounds down on some grabs over there.
Shots going to the aggressors. It's from the heavy blight launchers on one of the drones.
Plague weapons get the rerolls. Daniel spends 1 CP to try to get 1 more.
Couple of -2 saves. These are for 3 damage each.
There we go. Daniel's putting some pressure on those aggressors. Over here, you notice the Apothecary is not there, so every bit of damage you do here actually does weigh pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm.
He got 2 of the aggressors, and I believe Logan's just running units of 3. So that is pretty pivotal right there. It also, what that casualty does is force Logan to pull away the one that would be able to fire Overwatch if he charges.
Yep, 2 units of 3.
2 units of 3. So we have effectively half of the aggressors. Right now we're getting a ruling. We're getting a ruling on what models are actually affected by the -1. Ignore my AP -1 because it matters. We do have some bolters that can go there from those Blight Lords. So Daniel's kind of trying to decide where the best place to put those is. I'm surprised yet, Eric, that he hasn't actually tried to target some of these small units that, like we pointed out, the Servitors or the company vets, because those are a big influence in a game against the most Marine players right there. Like we said, it changes the state of the game and forces them to really spread out in like they don't want to. So I'm kind of wondering if we're getting a little bit of a if Logan's pulling a reaction with the amount of damage he's been able to put on and causing Daniel to try to really mitigate those threats and forgetting about some of the stuff in the back there that's kind of almost essential to win.
Yeah, I would have thought that using the mortars at Alliance, they would take out the servitors pretty quickly.
Yeah, and what you would have to do is then none of those aggressors and 1 unit of eradicators or something meaningful has to stay there.
Right.
And he doesn't want to move his big kill units out of the way, because then if he holds it with a character like you saw what happened to him, then that mortar can just rain down and take that character out. So it's an interesting play here. I'm curious if Daniel has that in mind, if there's a method to it, or maybe he's just thinking, or maybe if he's really trying to just focus on these threats that are putting some pain down.
Got some shots going into the aggressors here. 3 minus 3. Whoa, 6 damage. Well, there goes the last aggressor out of that squad.
That's a big deal for that flank because now there is not a lot left to contest it from those Blight Lords.
Yep.
And yep, I like it.
So we've
Volume
got
of fire. He's just going to try to press some bolter fire there. So, let's see if the aggressors are still up there. Did he get rid of all of those aggressors? He did not, but I think also he's looking at a point now where he can actually, he could probably send that Demon Prince over there easily, or even send in a drone and force them to fall back, and they're almost a non-issue.
Yeah, there's not a lot left on that flank. I don't know if there's anything in that center left building, but it looks like just the 4 servitors. We've got the lieutenant and then the 2 dreads.
The 2 dreads, right? And let's see what happens, because I think if Daniel can really make an impact, well, he's already made a big impact. Removing those aggressors, that's probably the largest threat over there.
Yeah, agreed.
Because, like I said, if he can get a charge off on these contemptors, that flank is done. I think that at least one contemptor will die in that combat, and the other one is going to get wrapped.
Right.
And now, because the vehicles, or because it's a vehicle, it can't go through the wall in that building, so he can just wrap it and stick it there, and it can't fall back.
Right.
And I don't even know if I don't even think it's eligible for desperate breakout. I think that's an infantry only.
Yep, infantry only, to my knowledge.
Yep. Nice. There we go. He's going to drop a hail of bolter fire to really punish those servitors. If he could drop 4 wounds to those servitors, that's a big deal. He's at a -1, but Terminator's always fired twice, so it's 4 shots from each, hitting on 4s. So theoretically, he's going to be hitting 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So he's going to be hitting 20 shots, and he'll wound on a 4-up as well. So he's going to wound 10 of them, and he should get 5 through. That should do the trick, unless
the dice are really against him.
Yeah. He is firing at a loyalist. So what ends up happening is I feel sometimes the Emperor's intervention isn't there.
Sometimes the Emperor's on a coffee break.
Ooh, this could be a big deal, because this could relegate Logan back to a 5-point, and that will actually answer the 5-point swing, and that's really awesome for Daniel. Oh no.
Uh-oh. 4 more saves.
Oh, this statistically should do it.
Maybe.
He got him.
Got him. I think okay, that's going to be big.
That's a big swing, yeah. Okay, so good job. Good on Daniel. And then let's see, because he's also, if he can get this charge off, he just crushed that whole flank. Which is...
We've got 1 more bloat drone that can fire.
Eric, I think if we look at if this pans out in Daniel's favor for the rest of this this charge phase and this this combat, Logan's now going to be on his heels, because man, 6 eradicators and 2 aggressors, even with Vulcan, is not enough to play the primary. And then now if Daniel really pays attention, he can shell those 2 company veterans. And then Logan's in a real sticky spot.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
I think what we're going to see is a charge with the Poxwalkers to get up there and try to bog down those Eradicators to at least take 1 unit out of the game and their ability to shoot next turn, which means he's really going to have to get aggressive with the other Eradicators to be able to shoot those Nurglings and get that character, which it might de-incentivize that. And then also... All right, so we got the final bloat drone firing. He's really trying to get some Horus's magic on there.
Yeah, I did not catch the target he's firing at, though.
I believe this is going to be I think the only
yeah, it's on the
Contemptor or the Inceptors. What happens?
There's Contemptor, yeah. Contemptor down to 3 now.
Right. Now, I don't believe the Contemptor's bracket, so one discouraging thing is that all that damage you did is really nice and dandy. It's still going to shoot you just as effectively next turn.
Yeah. And Junior has corrected me in chat. Desperate Breakout is for any unit.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's cool. Then he'd be able to use that for one of those dreads, which would be a key thing. But also forcing that CP would be pretty important as well, because as you can see, starting with 6 and only gaining 1 every turn, 2 of that would be allocated. It would leave him in a pretty sticky spot. And then now all of the cool Salamander stuff, Overwatching and the immolation protocols, all the things that he might want to use aren't there anymore.
Right.
Oh, he made it in.
Nice.
What did he roll here?
That
Looks
was
like
a
10?
long bomb charge, yeah. Got in on 10.
There we go. So now we're looking at a pretty good swing. This is a huge swing in the turn. I will say this: Logan is known for being trigger happy and really putting himself in precarious situations for the DACA. And let's see how this shakes out with him here, because there's still some stuff on the board, but it's going to be really tough for him now. Look at that chart. That's a good charge from Daniel as well.
Just making all those charges.
Well, if you notice, too, one key thing to point out in your charge move, the rules state that only one single model has to end closer to the closest. The rest of that charge movement can be used subsequently by any model in any direction. So you move the one closer, and as long as you keep coherency, if you'll notice how Daniel was able to string and use that charge movement to tag the objective and simultaneously tag the eradicators.
That is smart.
That's a very big. It's a pro play right there. It's a good play, and I think that what this is going to do is, if you'll look, he's going to be able to effectively shut down that flank on my left, Daniel's right. If he could take those eradicator or those inceptors away on the top, and now he's holding 3 different objectives. That's going to relegate Logan to a 5 and a real weird spot to be in. I'd like to give it up to the chat. I think those heretical prayers for the joyous God themselves might have paid some dividends this turn.
Like
That actually could solely be the reason that changed.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how this these combat phases resolve. It was looking pretty rough there for Daniel in the beginning, but I think this could potentially even it out. But a spike in either way could really change the game.
It always feels that way when you're fighting salamanders, man. Anytime anything gets shot, you're like, man. Now let's see. Now I believe Daniel was using the stratagem that there's a stratagem with the Poxwalkers when you use it that causes them to, I believe, 6s to hit, inflict mortal wounds. So that's the real key to these Poxwalkers. It's a death by volume and trying to fish for those mortal wounds here. So
he's taken 5 total wounds out of that close combat phase.
there you
that
go.
fight phase, sorry. Removes 1 base, and 1 base down to 1 wound. Poxwalker's consolidating in.
We have a chat rivalry between the loyalists and the heretics. I love it. Alrighty, Daniel does his consolidation in a way to where he can really he wrapped that unit, but still kept the coherency alive, so he can stay touching that objective. Solid play there. This is a key fight and charge phase for Daniel.
Yeah, so we did get some clarification in chat. With that stratagem, 6s do mortals and 1s do it to themselves, which is why 3 of the Poxwalkers were pulled off. So basically overcharging your Poxwalkers.
And now Daniel had to pull a couple guys back. It's okay. I think he achieved the result here. Those Eradicators will not be shooting. And now he's also in a predicament where he's forced to use Desperate Breakout on either the Dreadnoughts or the Eradicators. So something's going to be pinned. That's a super solid. You're making tough situations. You want to make your opponent make as many difficult choices in a game as possible, because if you can force those mistakes, that's huge.
Yeah, and Logan is low on CP, so having to use Desperate Breakout at all is going to hurt him there a little bit.
So right now we're talking about they're talking about the terrain features. One big thing to keep in mind is what terrain is defensible and what terrain isn't. Your defensible terrain is going to really make a big difference in your Overwatch, and it's also going to make a big difference in your plus to hit. I think Logan was trying to see if he had heavy cover. Now, only very specific things give heavy cover. Common misconception. Sometimes people confuse the defensible with heavy cover and vice versa.
So it looks like they determined that was not heavy cover, so there will be no bonuses there.
No soup for you.
Nope. Oh. Let's see.
Nice. Shout out to my friends, all of our friends over there in Dicehammer. They're a SoCal team, an amazing team. Nothing but good stuff to say about Dicehammer. They're true ambassadors for the hobby and the game themselves. They put on a lot of stuff. They put a lot of effort into their events, and they have really well thought out events. And one thing that I love is they take a lot of their players. They take time. They coach one another, and they really try to just up all of the gameplay from all of them, all of the members of their team. Really cool guys, really funny guys, and they're cool. They're cool guys. So shout out to Dicehammer. Appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate the support, and cheer on your boy. Hopefully he can get the 3-0 and be the first man to have his name upon the Warmaster board. Or we got to think of the name for that.
The Warmaster board. We will be posting pictures of it soon. We just got the plaque in. It is a giant chain axe. And it is awesome.
Life-size chain axe
Yes.
with a solid plaque on the back. Yeah, it's going to be sick. So that's one of the things going on in the store. If anybody completes the Warmaster challenge, they will have their name upon the wall of Warmasters or whatever. We'll think of something cool. Or I'll probably think it's cooler than it actually is.
And just a reminder to everybody listening that wants to participate in the Warmaster challenge, to become Warmaster, you must win 3 consecutive games in a row on stream. Signups will be the day after every stream to challenge whoever won the prior day.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting event. It's cool. It's like a winner stays on kind of event that we just me and Eric just kind of thought it up together and thought it would be fun and interesting, and it's turned into a real cool thing. A lot of people want to try their hand, and it's fun, and it's not easy. We've kind of set up a little bit of a method to where it's kind of slightly disadvantageous to the champion or anybody on the board. Because what happens is right now we're kind of setting up a system to where the challenger gets to pick the mission. And then there's going to be a little influence from the current champion on the terrain setup on the board.
Yep.
Nothing egregious, nothing crazy, but just enough to where it's a little bit harder to hold it down for 3 in a row. We want it to really be a challenging thing and something that people can be proud of to have their name on the board. So yeah, it's going to be it'll be gnarly, and so we do get a lot of entrants, and what we do is we kind of all put their name in the hat, and Eric himself pulls one name, and if you're selected,
challengers are chosen at random, and if you do actually get named Warmaster, you may not participate for a set amount of time.
Got to spread the. You can't be the only gladiator in there for a while. No one wants to watch you. Over and over every single time. Yeah, so it'll be cool. It'll be sweet, and I'd love to see it grow. And as it grows, hopefully, we get more people's name on there, and it'll be a fun thing going forward from here. So let's see how this is going here.
Not a very impressive set of attacks here from those Terminators. Looks like he's only taken 1 wound on that Contemptor.
Alrighty, so let's see how this goes. I think Daniel's a little bit worried about the fact that he didn't do too much damage there, but I'm not super sure that he needs to be overly concerned with the damage because the tactical implications are already there. You know, he can shoot into combat, which is going to hurt. The big
Right.
guns never tire.
Right.
He can't shoot the rockets, of course, but there's going to be contemptor volume there. It's -1 damage, so they are 1 damage, and it's a 2-up armor save. So I think he's going to be all right. I think the big thing is that he's going to make the third round of this, the third turn for the tactical doctrine, where salamanders are really strong. He's going to try to blunt that attack. You know.
Yeah. And what for big guns never tire, they're also -1 to hit when they're firing in close combat. Is that correct?
I would have to check, or the chat can jump in and let us know. I don't use vehicles personally almost ever, so I got to double check on the big guns never tire.
Yeah, my vehicles just explode on contact, so.
So, like we said, Daniel's going to succeed, and that charge gives him a. That charge is going to give him the engage points, which is huge. That lets him recoup a little bit towards the character that was killed earlier. I'm surprised the Inceptor did survive. He is going to have to fall
barely.
back, but that's alrighty. And yeah, so we did get the confirmation there. It's -1 to hit for heavy weapons from the big guns never tire,
Right.
which makes sense. I mean, it's you know.
So another big thing about that, and I think you may have already covered it, is that he put those Terminators down to get the focus off of the other vehicles and damage dealers he's got in the top left, and it worked 100%. Now that they're wrapped up there, yes, they can fire, but they have to fire at the Terminators, which, like you said, can tank a significant amount of damage, especially at -1 to hit now.
Absolutely.
So a question from chat, is the Warmaster list locked? No. We get new participants, or a new list for anybody who wants to participate in the challenge every time we have a fight. So basically, whoever wins tonight's match, tomorrow you can sign up to fight that person.
And if the list is locked, I think what they're meaning is
sorry.
that if their list actually has to remain the same. The only thing right now we're rolling with is that the faction, you have to be out of the same codex.
Right.
So if you roll up with Blood Angels, you can change your list up, but you got to stay Blood Angels. That's it. Otherwise, and then the next time you try, you can change your faction. Daniel's Deathguard, he's got to keep rolling Deathguard, but he actually brought a little bit different of a list. And that's kind of a double-edged sword because some people, changing your list up a lot, can really be a detriment. It can also, let you tailor a little bit. So, most competitive people nail down their competitive list and rock that list all the way through it, and they know it like the back of their hand. And it's super, super, super defined, and they know it in a lot of very good situations. On the other hand, sometimes you're fighting salamanders. Maybe a player will want to change something a little bit or something like that. But you're not going to see the enemy's list. So, you could also try to tailor your list and come up on the wrong end.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
also just to add on to that a little bit, what we're doing right now, if you have a list or a faction that soups with something else, like right now we've got Deathguard and Nurgle Demons, you have to have a primary faction, and that's what is kept. You can soup in other lists, but your primary faction still has to be a majority of your points. So in Daniel's case, he could add additional demons up to 49% of the list, or remove them entirely if needed.
Yeah. And keep in mind, guys, this is something we just thought up and just kind of brought into fruition 2 weeks ago. So it's also an evolving thing with us. So as we get feedback from the chat and the players and the community and everybody that tunes in and watches and has fun and wants to try it, we kind of evolve it and tailor it to that a little bit so that it can be the best experience for both viewers and the participants alike. And gives also there's you guys can't see it here, but there's a little bit of people hanging out around watching and kind of trying to see the gladiatorial action going on as we see it. So it's one of those things that hopefully we catch some steam, and you guys we can tailor it to what everyone is liking the most. Alrighty, so Logan is getting some of his movement in place like we anticipated. I think he's trying to really focus on the ability to fire up into those Nurglings and take out enough of them to be able to get a beat on that character. If he can do that, he might be able to free up some points. Now, Marines can fall back and shoot for 2. So if he can fall back with those other Eradicators, he might be able to clear out a couple of those Nurgle bases. And I believe those Nurglings up there are 3 at the minimum to provide Lookout Sir. So if he can get one of those bases gone, it will be beneath the minimum threshold to provide Lookout Sir to the character up there. And he has 2 units of those Eradicators. So he might be trying to All right. So 27 points for Logan right now, and 19 for Daniel. He did take off those 2 engage, which pops him up to 19, and Logan has scored up to 27.
All right, thank you. Scoreboard is currently updated.
Okay, and I believe Logan will be popped up to 4 because he will gain 1 at the beginning. Because I think by our calculation, if he had to use Desperate Breakout, it's going to pop him down to 2, which puts him in he can only really use 1 significant stratagem, unless he wanted it. And if he wanted to save some for Transhuman or anything else, he's now in a predicament to where you can only use, you only have 2.
And I'm being told that Daniel's down to 0 CP currently.
Oh, Daniel spent it all. That did need. Oh, he was probably using a lot of rerolls over there in that turn, and also trying to make sure that the charges were happening and he could do maximum damage. He did have a really clutch turn, so this is now a pretty close game. However, there's Gravis on the board. Whenever there's Gravis on the board.
Yeah, I mean, yes, he only has a few models down there, but I mean, it's Eradicators and Flamestorm Aggressors that belong to Salamanders.
Yep.
So,
and Vulcan is right there.
And Vulcan, yeah.
Giving him the full business.
Reroll hits and wounds. I'll take it. And once again, everybody, thanks for watching. This is our second episode of Warmaster Challenge, and I think probably our 3rd or 4th attempt at streaming in total here at Onboard Gaming. We are improving the process every time. If you do have feedback, you can contact me, Eric, here at the store. I'm on Discord and Facebook. One of the things that we're going to be enhancing here soon is we're going to get a little more live updates for the scoreboard. We're going to have the players be able to enter in some data that will automatically update, so be a little more real time. Until then, you can hear me mashing the keyboard every once in a while as I get updates. Logan contemplating Desperate Breakout. So yes, Logan is using Desperate Breakout. Maybe. So what he's trying to do here is be able to pull those Eradicators out from that blob, get them in range of the Apothecary so he can res and heal. So we did get a question in from the chat. Do you stream games other than the Warmaster series? So yes, we have done a couple just exhibition games. We do the Warmaster Challenge, and we will be streaming Top Table Last Game for the RTTs going forward. I'm not sure if we're going to have that ready for next week, but we will be holding monthly RTTs, and then we will be setting up streaming for, like I said, Top Table on that as well.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about those RTTs that are going to start kicking back up. Eric has really played a pivotal role in making sure that we can get that going out here, and we're going to start upping the participants too as we roll out of the pandemic slowly but surely, as we can safely pull off, right?
Yeah, like you were saying, it's going to be limited tables starting out. We're going to be growing a little bit more as things ease up, people get vaccines, etc. But right now we're going to be accommodating, social distancing. Everyone wears masks, the whole deal.
It's kind of crazy to think, man. It's almost like a time forgotten when we didn't have masks and
right?
The pandemic and everything going on. But yeah, we're excited about the RTT stuff. I think that for a lot of people out there with the pandemic going on and everything, it's been being able to play 40K and have a community around it has been such a big blessing for a lot of the people where a lot of everything else about life has been taken away that you can normally do. So that's been really cool that the community's been thriving and safely making sure that people can have some some recreation, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did want to give a quick shout out just to all the volunteers that we've had at the store, just helping organize things, do the technical setup and camera work, who've been running the crusades, for helping admin RTTs and things like that. We've got a great community down here at Onboard Gaming, and I'm just glad that everyone's just putting their time and effort into this, because it just makes things great for everybody that gets to participate. We are a pretty new store. We are slowly growing and trying to establish ourselves up here in Escondido. But the community's just been so great in all the effort they put into everything. Our terrain's looking pretty good these days. We've got more boards out, and now our competitive scene is starting to grow, so I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, it looks like pretty soon, man, with the store. The store's got a pretty good layout. There's going to be, who knows? So so it looks like that Inceptor, I had to step away for a quick second. It looks like that Inceptor, did he fail morale?
I'm pretty sure the Inceptor morale'd out.
Ooh. Okay, so now, yeah, it's looking like Logan is kind of pinned in here to a corner. So it looks like he's measuring out on how he can actually maximize and optimize this movement. He wants to get Vulcan in there. Vulcan has a 3-up invulnerable save, so he's pretty solid there, and there's not a lot of high threat stuff over here anymore, so he's kind of got to get him in there and impose that model. I think he's doing, like we said, he's trying to do what he can to get these Eradicators able to shoot at least one of those Nurgling bases down, so that he can have the other ones be able to fall back and shoot, and hopefully try to drop a character and get him some victory points. But we're looking into a scenario where, like I also said, Assassinate against Deathguard can be tricky. If you'll notice, now that one character is gone, it's going to be a real uphill battle to be able to go get the rest of those characters.
Right, exactly.
And they could just, they're not holding objectives. They don't need to support much anymore. They can just run away. And if you want to charge them, they have those ridiculous Death Guard flamers that auto hit. So now we're looking at, see, it's one of those things where I think sometimes, some armies can do it really well. I think AdMech, Gunline Tyranids and stuff can just blast through a lot of that stuff and really achieve the Assassinate, but a lot of armies just cannot do it. Interesting here.
So Logan did use Desperate Breakout to get those Eradicators out of the pile of Poxwalkers. Now, you can't fire them this round.
Unless
he
pays 2 CP.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Does he have a way to do that? And the answer is yes, he does.
He does. Marines have the 2 CP. You can fall back and shoot. So that's clutch. I think he's going to need to use that in order to really... he needs all that firepower right now. He needs all that firepower. He needs to try to kill that character. Otherwise, those bloat drones, and that's another thing I like about the bloat drones in this list, is those bloat drones can flex over and answer the threats on this flank. I don't know if they want to, just running into a bunch of Melta, but they have the option to run over there, jump behind that terrain, and really make it to where if you want to run over and do anything about it, they can jump over and hit you, So I like the mobility that gives Death Guard. The drones are amazing.
Yeah. The Terminators attacking there in the left was a little bit disappointing. We were kind of hoping that they would drop at least one of those Contemptors, but I think it ended up doing 1 damage.
Don't show your hand, Eric. Who are you rooting for here? Clearly you're rooting for the Death Guard. I didn't, throwing them in there. They are strength 5, but they're still wounding on 5s. The attack volume is there on 3s, but also you're going into a 3-up save. They are, I believe, they have Duty Eternal, so I think they're -1 damage. Which doesn't matter against the 1 damage.
Yeah,
so, it was kind of a long shot. The real thing was the positional advantage. Because I think over the long haul, especially if he kills one of those, oh man, that's rough then.
So many Flamestorm gauntlets going into this.
At +1 to wound.
Yeah. I think we're looking at 28 attacks.
He got 28 hits. These are going to be wounding on strength 4 on 3s, I believe. Yep. He's a salamander, yep. And Daniel said, "Hey, I'm toughness 4." Logan looked at him in a salamander amphibious look.
Yep. +1 to wound.
The salamander reroll you saw right there. And this is tactical, so these are all -1.
In a shocking turn of events, he did not make 20+ saves.
And I believe the Poxwalkers only have a 6-up. Yep. Here we go.
Eradicators into Nurglings.
So one of the eradicators is in the woods, so he's not going to receive the penalty. That's why you'll see the differential colored dice.
But aren't they firing through? Oh, you're because he's in the woods. Okay, gotcha.
They had to move, so they shouldn't be getting total obliteration or annihilation or whatever it is. So it does look like 2 volleys. I don't know if Logan spent CP to make him stand still.
All right, we got 4 D6 damage shots coming through. The 6, that's can't see on the 6, I think. Wow. All right, well, just doing 6 damage every time. Didn't need those Nurglings anyways. I mean, he could have easily tanked that, I think, with 4 shots, and just a couple bad damage rolls would have left at least one.
Yeah, he just needed. He was hoping for at least 1 or 2 3s.
But 3 6s, no good.
Now we got the dreadnoughts are firing into combat.
Did he shoot the missiles?
I think he did shoot the missiles.
Yeah, those are blast.
Those are blast.
Yeah, here comes the Volkites. Okay, yeah. So it was crack missiles, not blast.
Yeah, the crack missiles are heavy 1. Heavy 1.
Yep, that makes sense.
Which that is kind of a risky gambit there. Let's see. So as you can see, these are not doing a lot of effective damage into these Blight Lords. -1 to hit. Wound of 4 ups. Not a lot of wounds there. So 6 saves. These are all going to be 1 damage instead of the 2.
And 1 more wound. But yeah, bad save rolls there. Takes 10 damage. 3 bases are removed. That was rough.
Daniel is not happy with his dice rolls here, but I still think he's in a pretty good spot. Losing those Nurglings is going to be rough, though, because it is going to make it to where he does get another 5-point primary here. He's really kind of changing up how he wants to pull. I think because he's planning on a. Let's see, he already fought, so he's not going to consolidate any direction. I'm curious what he's trying to do here.
No, he hasn't fought yet.
Oh, because he's stuck in?
Yeah, they're stuck in, so it was shooting phase, and then he'll fight first.
Gotcha.
When the fight camp comes up. Which is what he's doing right now. Straight onto the fight phase, no charges.
So Logan was deciding if he wanted to spend his last 2 CP to interrupt and fight, and he just totally said it was not worth it.
Can he do that since nobody's fought yet?
Yes. So if Daniel can drop Drops 2 wounds into the dreads. 1 wound into the dread because they feel no pain. And then he's so he wants to really, if he can drop the this other contemptor, that'll also be very big. Having that volume of fire into them is going to be a big deal.
Yeah. Lots and lots of ones.
Daniel's really upset with his Dicehammer dice. Apparently, Dicehammer dice might not roll so hot. Oh my goodness.
Oh.
So Logan's saving like
Double
a
sixes, yeah.
like the Emperor himself.
Guess the Emperor is protecting something tonight. All right, going over to Daniel's turn.
He gains 1 CP. He did not exceed a 7 on his roll, so it's just going to be the 1. So Daniel's going to get 5 primary and 2 banners here for 7. He is advancing his character. There we go, just like we thought he would.
Yep.
Now it's going to be real tough to route that out, and that's...
Now, he left that character a little bit on the top edge there. Do you think that those Eradicators are going to be able to maneuver and get a shot from the right side?
It's risky. I think the ones on the right, he's going to figure out what he's got to do here. Yeah, I think... I mean, he got a 5, so he got kind of the best movement he possibly could. He wants to hold that objective. I'm not sure what the best play was. I imagine now you're going to see some Plague Burst Crawlers and some shooting really try to limit that flank over there. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
He still has to be very careful because he also doesn't want to put these vehicles in line of sight of these Eradicators. But I almost think now he's at a pretty safe spot to fly one of those drones over to in the middle of those woods and hold an objective. And this is what we're talking about now. Going into turns 4 and 5, Logan is really pinned, and I think he still has 2 company vets in that on objective 1.
Yep.
Okay. So, correction, 3 of the 9 Eradicators are still back in behind that ruin. So that objective is not going away.
Nope.
So, but Daniel now has the potential to be able to try to start shifting to where he can hold more.
So we're going backwards just a little bit. The Contemptors are doing their close combat attacks, which were missed during the fight phase of the previous rounds.
So Daniel's taking some 2-up saves.
Took a little damage there.
Yeah. Now keep in mind those Blight Lords are one of Daniel's Wowie stand targets, so he's going to sell them dearly. I think it's really important for him to kill that other Dreadnought this turn. If he can't pull that off, it's going to be tricky. He's going to be taking a lot of firing power, and I don't think taking, even at -1 to hit, weathering 2 Contemptors at, with all of that volume, that's going to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is a good game, though, so far. There we go. Daniel's being smart here. Making sure that he keeps in a good solid account of how far those Eradicators can move, and then be able to reach out and fire that melt at him.
So what's the intent there? To try and get the Contemptors out of combat and then move the Eradicators over?
I think the intent for that measurement was for Daniel to... Okay, he's falling back.
Oh, I see. Okay, so yeah, Daniel was making sure.
Right. What he wants to do is not move in a way that he's going to get hit by those Eradicators. He can't lose those Blight Lords right now.
So okay, I mean, he's removed the tar pit from there. opening up to be shot by his other stuff, which is good, but it's a risk, I guess. Because
I think what he can do here, though, is with the Demon Prince reroll, see, yeah, those entropy cannons can really do some damage. I think he feels better suited being able to fire his vehicles back at them, knowing that he only has to do 7 wounds to 1. And what's the other guy? He's pretty whittled down. 2? Yeah. So, I mean, those things could very well die this turn. I don't know about not backing up that other character, though. That seems like a little bit of a charge risk to me. He hasn't got there yet, but let's see what he does.
Which character?
The one up there in the top right by those dice that are laying down.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't want to stay so close that he can move 6 inches and then charge and then be back there. That's giving him free a stepping stone, a free movement. There we go. Okay, so now Daniel's, he can move away from all that Melta and say, I don't care anymore. I just have to kill these 2 dreadnoughts, and then I already have Terminators by objective 3. So I think the play here would be to set up turn 4 and 5 to hold objective 4, 6, and 3 for the rest of the game.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, okay, cool. That was a smarter play. We just talked about that earlier. He said rather than the objective, he's not worried about that objective. He knows moving into his next 2 turns, he's going to be able to ideally score 15. And he went second, so he scores his last turn at the end. So if he can get 2 15s, he's already got 1 10 and 1 5. He'll max, so he doesn't care about that moving forward here. I think now the game for him is avoid the. He can almost guarantee for himself that while we stand is going to happen. The Demon Prince and that Plague Burst Crawler are probably not going to die. I think we can safely say those Contemptors are going to take damage. I don't think both of them will remain, and I don't think one is enough to kill a Plague Burst Crawler.
Yeah, I mean, well, maybe. I mean,
then again. But we are also moving forward into turn 4 and 5. Salamanders will taper off some. Keep in mind, Logan has 2 CP, and his major +1 to wound is going to no longer be in effect. All those weapons will no longer be in Tactical Doctrine, so there's no more -1.
Interesting. And we had mentioned this before, but he's keeping a unit of Eradicators back there on Objective 1, likely because, as we've also discussed, the PVC can fire without line of sight and potentially kill the 2 veterans, which would knock him completely off that objective.
And now, consequently, Logan still has a good amount of stuff, but it's a lot of stuff in one spot. So while he could be able to come back and get a couple high-scoring turns, he's also at the risk of not. And that's just something you don't really want to gamble, especially against somebody with indirect fire. That those Plague Crawlers are strength 8, and those mortars are going to really put it on those company bets.
Yeah. So he does have a Sorcerer and Terminator armor behind that building.
I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, he did smite prior round.
He did smite. I wonder what he's going to try to do here with that guy. I couldn't tell if he got a bead. Obviously, the closest thing is going to be those Contemptors. He might be trying to get some mortal wound action going on there, or let's see what he can do. He might be able to give a -1.
Yes, he does have Putrescent Vitality, so he'd probably be casting that on
the Terminators.
Terminators, yeah.
And Putrescent Vitality, is that recoup wounds or models?
I believe that makes them tough 6.
Oh, okay. Ooh, that's really good.
Can somebody in chat give us clarity on Putrescent Vitality?
Oh, I can pull that up right now. It's no big.
I want to give chat something to do.
Interesting play, I think, in up there at that top right objective. Putting that character back there, I think he's trying to hold that one objective. But I also am curious, I mean, facing 6 Salamanders Meltas, but do we think that's a good play?
If they draw line of sight, it's going to die. That's it. There's no real... Yeah, if you can drop those Contemptors, you can have objectives 4, 6, and 3 by the end of the next turn. Looks like it's the Lord of Verulians, which is up there in the top right, so...
That is a Chaos Lord. He can lay a beat down in combat, I think.
Yeah. And he has the... Oh, wait, yeah. I was thinking the Foul Blight Spawn, but I think that's the one in the top center.
Yeah, the Foul Blight Spawn's in the top center. He does have the Flamer over there.
Yeah, Plague Sprayer and the special ability to reroll his attacks for that.
I like it. Daniel's bringing up all 3 of those models that can fly a little bit closer to bear now. He knows that he's within a vehicle with 10 or more wounds. He knows the Terminators are still going to be there, so he's well screened with Lookout Sir, and he can start using some of that fly movement to really challenge Objective 6 and 3, like we talked about.
So Putrescent Vitality did go off.
Yeah, so Putrescent Vitality, you're right, Eric. It's the it's +1 strength and toughness to a unit.
Okay.
Cast on a 6, so those Terminators are popping up to tough 6. That's going to really help. It's the thing is, though, while it is going to help the toughness there, crack missiles, Volkites, Melta, most of the weapons that are still on the board are not going to matter at all.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Those feel no
Logan
pains,
just passed
man.
2 6-up, feel no pains. Daniel being a good sport about that.
Yep. Down to 3 wounds. These dreadnoughts are just taking a lot of damage.
Quite frankly, too much damage. That's not...
He's been very reliant on the 6-up feel no pains, and it's been paying off. Logan taking -1 to hit. Maybe taking -1 to hit.
Logan is deciding right now if he wants... He's making it -1 to hit here. He spends 1 of his CP. And it does drop a lot of the dice out. Oh, man. He... Man, that was a well-spent strategy.
Yikes.
He pulled 5 threes right there.
Yeah, no damage. Oof. Success here was contingent a lot on removing 1 or more of those dreads. It's going to be a little rough. And they're just 2 and 3 wounds. Come
Well,
on.
he still has the entropy cannons. I think what this is going to be the big thing that's going to guarantee that 1's going to die. So Daniel spends 1 CP right now, and what he's doing is upping the damage. So he's trying to make it to where either one, he pretty much has to leak 1 wound through with those entropy cannons. Daniel does have a line of sight to where he does not have the -1. Do you not CP?
That's a hit and wound. This will be 4 damage at -2 if it goes through.
He did spend the CP for the mortal wound splash. It did not work.
Oof. No wounds on the entropy cannons. Sluggers firing for nothing. Absolutely nothing out of that.
Ouch.
Yikes.
Tough break for Daniel.
Man, that would have been 4 flat from each. Would have taken both out.
So Daniel will pop up to 2 victory points at the end of that for his engage, which will give him a lead for a brief second until the turn counter switches over. Logan's going to gain 10 for holding 2, I believe. Yeah, real tough break for Daniel right there. He really needed to drop one of those dreadnoughts. Them being at 1 wound or 2 wounds or whatever means absolutely nothing because they don't deteriorate.
Yeah, no brackets.
No bracketing there. So he's going to got 2 of his While We Stand targets, getting ready to really get some heavy firepower laid down on him. It's going to be rough here. Logan in the primary game, I can't tell if that's a banner or if that's one of the models over there. It looks like he got at least 10. We need a...
I'm updating score right now.
Oh, gotcha. So did he get a 15 or the 10?
We've got a reporting of Daniel 28, Logan 39 currently.
Oof.
And then Logan also gets a CP for his command phase.
You will.
And yes, there are banners on the 2 bottommost objectives, 1 and 3.
Gotcha. But is that one base we see there? Is that a model? Or is that just a banner?
Yep, just flags.
So nobody's on that objective. So it was a 10. Was it 10 and was it 2 banners or 3? I think he went up to 12. He went up 12, huh?
Yeah, he's got 2.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that was a bad idea.
Just trying to range him out here.
I don't know why he did that. Yep, so as you would see, the farmost peripheral eradicators are getting the rerolls from Vulcan. So they're going to get full reroll to hit and wound. That character is probably done for up there. And he's got 1 wound on that one character down there, so he's going to probably he's right now deciding that he's going to lay probably all of the firepower into those Blight Lords right there, which are just staring down the barrel. And then he's going to charge and try to knock that last wound off of that character over there.
Yeah, and I do believe he has a lieutenant down there in the bottom left somewhere. I just can't see him through the terrain.
Right, yeah. Is the lieutenant on objective 3 or is he...
I don't know. I think he is, actually.
Yeah, we'll see. He might be behind the ruins because he wanted to give the rerolls to those contemptors. Checking in with
It also
our
gives him the feel no pain.
stream room crew. Yeah, he gives them the feel no pain also. Yeah, so he's probably not on that objective. He's probably behind those ruins hidden over there. Yep, those...
Okay, yeah. So he's got while we stand, we fight on the one squad of eradicators, which was combat squatted.
So he's leaving half of that squad behind that ruin, both to double down on those company vets, and the other thing he's doing is denying the ability to knock that 5 points out of the while we stand.
Yep.
So like we said, Vulcan's advancing. He's setting up a charge next turn. He's trying to do that and not set up a charge for Daniel to come and beat the heck out of Vulcan.
But does Daniel even have enough there to be really a charge threat?
He does have his Lord of Virulence, the Chaos Sword equivalent, which is but if he does that, once again, you know, this might be some gamesmanship from Logan to try to bait that charge out, because that's 3 victory points. He may kill Vulcan, but then he's looking at 6 Eradicators.
Yeah.
So
Not a good trade.
not a good trade. I think that Lord is kind of pinned where he's at right there. He's not, you know.
He's worse VP, and he's got to just sit there.
Yeah. I cannot mention enough how rough of a turn that was for Daniel. Not killing either one of those dreadnoughts is a big deal. Theoretically, he should be able to do it next turn.
Yeah.
And if history repeats itself.
Such a good turn, too, going in there and making all those charges, and then just
Right,
unfortunate turn
yeah.
events in turn 3.
The dice giveth, and they taketh away.
They sure do.
What is going on?
There's Inceptors down there. Where did they come from?
Oh, yeah, because that's also cheeky, because that's the other half of a while we stand target as well.
Oh, we combat squatted them.
Right, yes. So
Okay.
which is a good maneuver when you're when you're playing Marines and you're trying to achieve that while we stand. You know, you can have half of your unit out there putting in work, and half of them holding down victory points for you. There we go. Yep, he's going to positionally make it to where he can essentially not fail that charge. And then he's going to want to fire a lot of firepower, it looks like, into the Blight Lords, which is a while we stand target. Which still, it looks like he probably won't kill them if history repeats itself.
Do you think he's going to do that, or is he going to fire? Is that what he's lining up to shoot at there?
He might be lining up to shoot there. He might be lining up to shoot at the Plague Burst Crawler. I would imagine this orientation is trying to do 2 things. The thing it seems like this is trying to do is to take out that Plague Burst Crawler while he can, and also simultaneously charge that character and assure that would essentially be a swing of 8 points. And there he is. Once again, very important in the movement phase, making sure that you have your proper aura spacing. There we go. That character passed away. That's 3 victory points for Logan. Yeah, not sure if that was the right play, putting that character back over there. I think it was the better play to deny the victory points and understand that you weren't going to get the primary than allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
All right. So Logan gives +1 to hit with his last CP onto the Dreadnought that's firing now. Everything's going to the Terminator, so he wasn't lining it up for the PBCs.
Taking 2 rerolls there from the Salamander's rule and from Lieutenant nearby.
He was also +1 because of the stratagem. So
10 saves. Oh, 6 wounds so far. Are they flat 3 damage?
no.
Oh, because it should go down to 3 because of disgusting resilient, yeah?
Should go down.
So many shots.
Not looking good there.
Looks like 3 mortal wounds and 11 saves.
I stand corrected as well. The Volkite Culverins are not 7, they're 6, which makes the impact of that putrescent vitality way larger.
Yeah, that does make a difference.
Ooh.
But then spending CP to negate that.
Yep, you're right.
Going into charge phase, attempting charge into the Terminators. There he goes.
This is rough here. Man, this game's been kind of like a Richter scale here. Let's see, right?
It's going, yeah, all
Logan's
over the place,
favor,
man.
Daniel's favor, Logan's favor. This is kind of the thing that I was talking about, though, towards the end of the game. It always feels like a pretty good game when you're fighting this way, through the first turn into the second. But the amount of value and efficiency that's in turn 2 and 3 against Salamanders is really rough. To where now, if you'll notice, at the beginning of turn 4, if you look at the comparison, it's kind of rough. So.
All right. Punches coming in from one of the dreads here. Five saves at AP -1. Takes 2. Some pretty good rolls there. 1 down. So Daniel's going to fight back here, and then we're going to go on morale phase. Unfortunately, that last Terminator is going to morale out on a 3. And yeah, there goes the last Terminator.
So that's going to be a 5-point denial from Logan. Also, it's going to make it pretty tough to get engaged again here. Also, man, one of those dreadnoughts not dying was the.
I can't believe that. I mean, yeah, he's got significant anti-tank firepower still on the board. He can still drop them both in his turn, but I mean, losing the entire squad of Terminators just.
Yeah. So Daniel does get his victory points for the 2 banners. He's also going to gain, it looks like 1 objective. He might have 2. If there's still something back there. Get a validation from the stream crew. So Daniel now has to, he can't hold back anymore.
Beginning of round score has been updated. Logan 42 and Daniel 35.
Props to Daniel for trying to keep the composure, man. I don't know if you guys have seen these rolls. It's been rough. He super smited and he got 1 wound, right?
Yeah,
something like that. And re-rolled it into a 1.
I feel like that's one of the unspoken rules of Warhammers. If you end up getting a super smite, you will always roll 1 on that damage. It's just like if you have a 1, you re-roll it, you'll get another 1.
Yeah. So if we're looking here, Daniel's doing all right on engage. He needs to take it 1 more time in order to get. He needs it 1 more time in order to equalize for the 2 characters that have died, to nullify that. It looks like Logan has 2, maybe all 3 of his while we stands, which means Daniel's at a 5-point deficit there. He will get to score the primary at the end of his turn, so it seems like we're pretty close here still.
And Daniel did go second. You to see him potentially flying over to a couple objectives and getting at least 10 points second or primary on there.
So now he's trying to shell the Inceptors. He used a stratagem to pop it up 1 damage.
Is that a 2-point strat?
No, I think it's a 1-point strat.
Nothing out of the sluggers there. Firing into the bottommost contemptor from that bullet drone, the closer bullet drone.
This could do it.
Nope.
Man.
You just cannot get the last 2 wounds off either of those contemptors. Finally got 1. Nope.
Oh,
does
it
explode.
explodes.
Oh, maybe. Can we get a 2 for 1 here? D3, 4, 2.
Oh.
Makes it feel no pain. All right, one contemptor down, one at 1 wound, and the lieutenant behind him.
This could be the turn where he finally gets them both. Here we go. So we're into the charge phase.
Yep.
Daniel's trying to use that. He didn't want to kill it in shooting. He wanted to anchor in order to get some movement to capitalize for engage.
Yeah.
Sometimes you... It seems bold.
Yep, unfortunately all those charges failed from the Demon Prince and from the Bullet Drone.
So Logan's going to go up 15 here. 2 objectives he holds, and he's got 3 banners.
And that's putting us into the top of turn 5.
So Logan is taking his last dreadnoughts. He knows it's going to die. He's trying here to nullify 5 more points on the while we stand. Which if Daniel can get a 15 here, it could still be a close game. If no more characters die, he'll be able to take engage.
Ooh, takes down a banner, puts up his banner.
That right there might be the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I think
well,
that's gonna
no,
be
he
it.
scores at the end of the game. So that does deny Daniel 1. So bold maneuver here. Logan's going to move up and try to charge to stop the Lord from being able to move and charge. However, if that Lord kills them...
3 Gravis armor guys, you think you can do it?
He does have a Power Fist and he's a Chaos Lord.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I think if he hits all 5 and wounds them all and all of them go through, he still only does not enough because each guy's going to eat 2 of those 5 attacks and 1 will be alive on 1 wound.
No. That remaining Contemptor putting all of its firepower into that Demon Prince. Three mortal wounds and 10 saves.
Oh my goodness.
Taking 9 feel no pains.
He needs to pass 3.
Only passes 1. That takes him out. Jeez. Those Contemptors seem to do way more damage when they are in their last couple of games.
Those things were, in all fairness, lived way longer than they should have been living.
Yeah. I mean, when they got charged by the Terminators and they were shooting and punching and just really not doing anything, but as soon as they got out of combat, it was bye-bye everything in front of me.
Yeah, I wonder if the right call there was falling back. I mean, theoretically you should have killed them, but I think keeping them stuck in keeps your Blight Lords a little safer, and they could have probably knocked off some wounds here and there.
Yeah.
I don't know if falling back was the best answer. I mean, you did have a lot of guns, but that's still a gamble as well.
Well, I mean, the odds were in his favor to be able to kill 2 things at 3 wounds and 2 wounds, but
Yeah.
the rolls were not with him.
Hard to say, yeah. There we go, Daniel answers. How does he get a 15? Can he get a 15? Oh, he can.
Could do it. He needed a 3-inch advance for that to work. Wow, okay.
He used.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so just a little context there. Daniel said he's going to perils and die, and then he rolled double ones. So, but it turned out that was for his tallyman thing.
Can he stray? He could have probably. I was curious about that, but I wonder if he could have stretched it.
I mean, he can mortar it. I don't know if he's got line of sight from the PVC there. We're at the bottom of turn 5 here. Daniel's trying to see how he can maximize his points. Got a smite off there.
Trying to kill Vulcan himself. Got some of that through with the smite there.
Yep. Spending his last CP to bonus damage off the PVC. He fired the mortars at the Inceptors and did nothing. No wounds from the sluggers. Both bullet drones are firing at Vulcan there. He's rolling them both at the same time. Four saves at -3.
Oh my goodness!
Makes every
What
single one of them.
Well, I will say this, man. The dice just said no twice in a row. I feel like the Warhammer challenge or the Warmaster challenge is the dice have just been like crazy.
Yeah. Kills one Eradicator and the Sergeant's at 1 wound left. All right, that is the end of round 5. We're going to get the
Official
full score. Yes, the full official score. We're going to get all the secondaries, etc., and we're going to have the guys come in here and give their after-action report. So stick around. They will be in here in about 30 seconds.
73 in Logan's favor. Man, put up an all right fight there with the dice rolling like that. We do sign up for a dice game, so you can never blame it on the dice. But I do think that was a decent game out of Daniel. Interesting.
Man, all right, 54-73 final score. All right, we're going to get those guys in here in just a moment.
Man, so, oh, that was intense. It was intense, and I think that was a good back and forth battle, just like we like to see. It was 2 high-level players, so we kind of expected that. Woo! And not being able to kill those Contemptors, I have to say, I think that's the name of the game there. If those things both not dying single-handedly was the reason he lost that flank with those Blight Lords, and which got him another 3 for the engage for the Demon Prince, for Assassinate. So it kind of snowballed and led into a lot of different things that was really, really difficult to deal with. Man. So, Alrighty, so we're bringing it in for the after action report. I hope you guys all enjoyed the stream so far. So right now, we obviously got the initials on what everybody thought and how the game went. Very competitive game, and we're going to kind of get in here and get the opinions of both players together on how the game unfolded, and kind of just give a real deep dive into what they thought of the battle. So we have Logan here. Vanguard Tactics is triumphant today, and we got Daniel here as well. Guys, I got to say, engaging stream. Everybody was rooting for you, and it was a really insightful, awesome chat, awesome game. Man, those Contemptors not dying.
So, I think to put it nicely, this deployment was really, really bad for me because it was just there's a lot of room to cover to be able to try and not do it. And like we were saying in the beginning, if you start your eradicators on the line, you move 5 and you can shoot anything, right?
So we're talking about Dawn of War, the mission itself.
Yes.
So rather than all of the other deployment zones would have been way more advantageous. You think that just right there with that gap and that kind of breadth.
Also, there was no obscuring in the middle. So, like, if he comes out, if I come out, we're going to see each other.
First turn was huge. I think him blowing at the Playbridge Crawler, that I said it to him when we were in there. I was like, that's game. Like, I cannot come back from that.
Right. So let's talk about a couple things that I want to kind of go over with you guys. The first thing was let's talk about deployment a little bit. We talked about that. The board had a lot of -1, but it didn't have a lot of obscuring in the middle. There was a decent amount of ruins. You had that one PBC up in the far corner. We were kind of talking about it. It seemed like that could have been a play that's saying, hey, come out. I want you to expose yourself. And it was like a little bit of bait to where you could counterattack it, and that totally happened. However, the amount of damage that went through on there was a little bit surprising to even me. What do we think about that? What was your intent, Daniel?
So I actually made a mistake. I should have put him next to the other PBC because if the Contemptors move out, it's -1 to hit. Also, my dice rolling was abysmal this game. I failed 3 Volkite saves, and I failed both missile saves.
Oh, we watched the whole...
Yeah, it died before the Beltis even had a shot, and I was like, okay, well, that's my bad. But also...
It was like all 2s.
Yeah, I was so... And then when the Contemptors shot the Blightlords, 6, 7 1s, on my saves, and it's like, I can't...
Well, we did commend you for the composure, and that thing sucks. It sucks sometimes when the dice go that way. Super rough. But what we can talk about is, I feel like there was a lot of tactical good you did. Yeah. There was a lot of things that were good. The game was real competitive up until like the final turn or so. Yeah. I personally think that arguably you could say you would have been in a real struggle, Logan, had those Contemptors died. That flank was yours.
And that was my plan, right? Is to basically commit to one side and say, hey, this is mine now. I'm going to stand here for the rest of the game, and I'm going to pick an objective, probably the one in the forest on his side, or what was now his side, and just shoot him off, right? And the thing is the Contemptors didn't die, and then they literally turned around and just deleted
the Contemptors didn't die, and then they took away 5 points from you. And also arguably more in a primary swing. And then after that, they were still there, and they took away another 3 points from you, from your Demon Prince. And then they were still there trying to take down that PBC too. It's like those guys were going crazy. Because I think that if we talk about the chat here and kind of what people were thinking is, first climate, you losing that PBC was pretty rough. Yeah. Then we moved ahead, and when those Blightlords came in, made the 10-inch charge, were right there in the line, people were kind of like, whoa, that's GG pretty much. Like, I don't know what Logan's going to do now. And I'm curious, Logan, what was your thoughts? When that 10-inch charge went there, you had a Dreadnought with 6 wounds and a Dreadnought with, 2 wounds left.
Yeah,
what were you thinking?
Or something like that. But yeah. So, you made the, so it's like a 20, it's like 22 per, 20, it's in the 20s to make the 9-inch charge coming out of Deep Strike, and then with the reroll, I think it goes up to like 40 or something. I don't know. And then he made that, I was like, well, let's see what happens.
And those Blightlords just whiffed. I was trying to think about spending the 2 CP on giving him +1 to wound, but if you notice at that moment, my Tallyman was not giving me CPs, and I was just really starved.
Yeah.
There was 2 turns where I got nothing from him both times, and if I'd gotten the +1 to wound, those Contemptors would have been dead. And it was just, I think moving forward, I would probably like to see the maybe the Sorcerer have the rerolling wounds, because then he can just deep strike with Terminators. And if I could just get one dude within 6, then they're rerolling all their wounds, and then I can just chew through stuff.
That's huge.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the list mistake there. Other than that,
Still a very solid list, though. I mean, the list performed well. I mean,
Yeah.
dice permitting, of course. And I mean, once again, we play a dice game. I mean, it's tough, but I mean, that definitely was it was not in your favor. But I think your list was solid. One thing I did notice, and I wanted to comment on, was how did you feel about the drones? I felt they gave you so much mobility, so much flexibility.
they're so good. And again, this was the thing that I was concerned about is them going up against vehicles, T7. I'm screwed. Like, I will not wound you. It's very, very... I'm at 33% chance to wound you. It's a little bit higher with the reroll once to wound something like 40%, but it's tough.
Yeah.
And I was rolling 4s to wound. The other thing that I've considered is giving the Demon Prince -1 toughness spell.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of play there, too. Now I'm winning stuff on 4s. A little bit easier.
The Putrescent Vitality actually came in clutch a few times
Yeah.
this game with the Volkites. I didn't realize it. That's the difference in -1 to wound essentially on the Volkites. A few other couple plays I want to talk about that were pretty clutch. So for you, obviously we combat squatted Logan down, and you guys wanted to keep. Obviously it was really solid, keeping half of the unit tucked away in the ruin on your objective, the other half out there doing handling business. As far as Daniel provided you that one spot to drop in the back and just nuke that character for three victory points. What was your thoughts in kind of deploying there in kind of almost like a trade scenario, absolutely knowing you were just going to trade and die, as opposed to going somewhere that might have got you a little bit more value? What was your thought process? What did you think the yield on that would be as far as everything else, and how did it work out?
Well, yeah. With that, I wanted to get when he told me he didn't have an invulnerable save. It's like, okay, I need to get these guys. I want to shoot them off because that's a difference of 5 primary, and I knew I already at that point. No, I hadn't yet, but I knew I was going to come up and try to kill that Contemptor, and so that way he only had Nurglings, Poxwalkers, and a couple characters back there, and so I wanted them to have to come out and do something.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm assassinate. Which I took that instead of engage, which I think probably would have scored about the same if I would have taken engage.
Right.
So it's like, okay, this is a difference of 8 points. I score 3 for assassinate, take him off 5 for that, and then I think I was thinking I don't think your Plague Burst Crawler was close enough, but I think in my head I was like, hey, maybe I can charge the Plague Burst Crawler, but I didn't even charge anything. They just sat there.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were just, I just wanted to trade them, and I knew I'd have another 3 that I were going to bring in turn 3. And when I brought them in, just tuck them in right underneath that ruin. Like, okay, they're really not doing anything this game.
And you needed the points, and that was actually the difference came down to, because I think you had by the end of the game 6 points or so in engage, Daniel, and you had 6 in assassinate, I think. Was that what it was? You had
no, not yet. That was I scored 3 off that, and then when he moved Nurglings and a character onto that objective.
So you got a total of 9 there. Was it 9 total? Was it 3 characters?
Yeah, he killed the prince at the end, so that was 3 as well. So
Yeah.
we did not factor that into the score.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's that as well.
Yeah. So I mean, the third
Okay.
character, but theoretically, had you not had to go, up there as you had to compensate for that Contemptor with, that was a pretty even assessment there. So 6 and 6. The other thing was that on banners, you guys were pretty even until the last little bit of the game. So the real deciding factor ended up being while we stand, and it was who was going to be able to drop it, and it was at the 10-point swing there. Primary was pretty close as well, so that's pretty interesting.
The game, the MVPs are obviously the Dreadnoughts, because that was the difference. I was able to take out 2 while we stand. We fight targets with them.
Right.
And yeah, they
That was so ridiculous, dude. And then I just saw your saves and all that was so wild at the end. So let me ask you this. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, a significant point in the game, as what was your assessment, Daniel, in deciding that the better point was to fall back with the Blight Lords and try to let your other shooting units get it done, rather than staying stuck in and having the -1 to shoot at you, and be able to really just try to just throw volume in there? What did you think was going to be more rewarding about falling back with those guys? And in hindsight, do you think it was a better call, or do you think staying in there might have been the better call?
So I was thinking about staying in combat, but again, I'm wounding them on 5s, and that's not going to happen. In the worst case, I kill 1, and then next turn he just shoots me again, and it didn't seem very rewarding. So my plan was to fall back, stay within 3 of the lieutenant, but also be within range of the objectives. And I was going to plan on getting a CP and then heroically intervene to the lieutenant. So that way I could touch both of the objectives. Because I believe if you heroic, you can just move.
Right.
You don't actually have to move closer to the opponent.
Yeah.
Or at least you have to get him within engagement range.
So I was going to do that and then get those points back. And it's just, I didn't get the CP, and then those dreadnoughts did not die. And it was just...
which is so bonkers.
Yeah. And it was like, there's 2 nails in the coffin. The first one was turn 1 when the PVC died. The next one was that, when I didn't get the command point, and I didn't kill the dreadnoughts.
Well, I'm gonna respectfully disagree in that first nail in the coffin. That PVC died, but your swing in turn 2, I mean, like we said, I mean, you had him on his heels. It was so competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys in the chat were like, "Whoa, GG!" Like, you know, kind of like. So it was like, dude, it was. I was like, "What is happening in this game, man? This is back and forth."
It was back and forth, but I still feel like it was a little uphill. Again, I'm beating a dead horse, right? This Dawn of War is tough for me.
Yeah.
Because with the Eradicators coming in on the flanks, it's very hard for me to try and block that out when
And
it's already
score.
got Eradicators, and stuff like that. I think, going back to what Logan said initially too, I would have liked to see a little bit of skirring in the middle. We had this discussion before the stream. We didn't want to make it to where it's just, completely peekaboo and then my indirect fire just ruins him.
Right.
That's a feel bad, right? So I think, maybe if there was a little bit more of skirring, maybe it would have made a little bit of difference. My deployment mistake, putting him off to the side, was not a good choice. I should have put him closer to the other PVC, so I would have gotten the -1. Maybe he would have lived, and then I would have been able to operate at full and start dishing out some damage.
Yeah. Well, I do think, though, one thing to say, though, man, with the board the way it was, there were definite opportunities where both of you looked like you were going to win the game. And it was switching up evenly. And I think that is a pretty good testament to a pretty balanced game setup.
It felt pretty back and forth the first 3 turns. And then turn 4 and 5, his dice just said, you know what?
Yeah.
The dice
and that was that.
Like, you need to go home. And,
So,
you're
and I also think that, I mean, like, there was a lot of variable factors like that, but I still think that the game was pretty even. The board seemed like it was actually pretty suitable to both. You guys both fought a hell of a fight, and I think that, man, it just came down to the dice in that one point. But so let's talk about this, guys. In hindsight, I'll have you go first. As far as your initial assessment of the game plan, how much do you think the game actually stayed in parallel with that? How much did you think you were on target? And what kind of things caught you off guard that you didn't recognize? I'll have Daniel. Daniel, you can go ahead and start first, and then Logan, you can respond as well.
My plan actually went very according to plan. It's just that some bad dice rolls really cost me the game. I would say that I probably couldn't have played that better. I think there was a couple of mistakes in the beginning. I should have moved some nerdlings up just to screen out the Eradicators. But at 24 inches, I can't really do that. It's just not feasible. I think popping the Dreadnought out was a big mistake. I basically just gave it to him. I killed 2 aggressors, which ended up being 0.
Yeah.
Because you can heal them. But other than that, my plan was basically to decide which flank he wants to stay on, which was my left flank, and I'm just going to go that way.
Yeah.
And just try and take his side and try and shoot him off of 1 and keep scoring 15.
Yeah.
And again, I think if the roles were reversed, if I had maybe gotten first turn, I had killed the bikes, I think it would have been a completely different game. Those Volkite Contemptors probably wouldn't really want to mess with me. Maybe if Logan rolled amazing on his Feel No Pains.
Yeah, always does. Those
He
VT
was
dice,
just
man. I need to get me a set of those.
Yeah, and props to you, man, because Logan saw it on stream or in the room, and you guys probably couldn't hear, but I was getting frustrated.
I was hearing it.
Yeah, you guys could hear, right? And the thing is for me is I get frustrated, right? But my friend Jason told me you just got to clamp down, you got to play, right?
Yeah.
'Cause if you get jaded about it, you're just gonna lose.
Yeah.
Right? I was trying to fight for it, and you got to just keep going for that stuff.
But you did, man, and you did
Yeah.
put in a pretty good fight, and I think the last little bit of it was just the composure there. So game plan was pretty solid. You thought it was all right. You thought the dice were just kind of not there. I do think the secondaries were pretty similar. You guys played Assassinate, kind of caught me off guard. I didn't know if that was a bold play, and it worked out. So yeah, let's talk about you, Logan. Let's see. As far as the game plan, do you think you picked the right secondaries? Would you have changed it?
No, no. I wanted to pick very defensive secondaries. So my options for my third second, and While We Stand and Banners was just, those were the easiest for me. And then I didn't want to look at everything else. My options were Engage or Assassinate.
Right.
And I wanted Assassinate because if I can force him to actually have to come out and use his characters, then my plan was to have enough assets on each flank that I could go in and try to kill a couple, and hopefully 3. And I did get the 3, 9 points. I feel really happy with that. If he would have been really aggressive and just hey, I'm deathguard, I don't die, and he moves into the center, it's okay, well, I'm Salamanders.
You're gonna die.
You're gonna kill me. And that was the thing, right? Is I knew that he could kill me very, very easily, right?
And the thing is I have to, my game plan was to avoid him entirely. But he kind of had the same thing too, where he doesn't really want to engage with me unless he has to.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, we have that system there where we're jockeying for position, kind of playing a little peekaboo, we're trading, Pokemon cards and stuff like that. He gets my blue eyes, I get his red eyes, stuff like that. And, at the end of the day, he traded up a couple of times, and it was just, I really think it was down to the dice. There was just a couple of moments.
Dude, and then another one on that turn. Let's talk about that turn 2, man. I mean, you drop in with the Blight Lords, right? You knock down some serious wounds on the Contemptors to where it's almost like a guarantee that you're going to kill them both. The Terminators shoot all of your dudes off of that other objective.
Well, they put all their shots into the Servitors, and the Servitors almost lived.
Yeah, they did.
I'm surprised you didn't reroll that.
I was talking it out too, and I'm like,
I thought
man,
you overkilled them by what?
I think it was down to 2 wounds, and you fell 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was right on the money because I was talking it out.
Whiffed.
But I mean, dude, you killed all of those dudes. What else did you kill? You killed something else
Company
meaningful there.
vets turn 1 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold them off.
So which did the job. You had to hold the Eradicators there.
Yeah, so I didn't put enough assets on the left, and I threw away the aggressors on the left. If I would have had them in position, then they could have come up and...
Yeah, they would have been way...
I think if you had put them in the terrain next to the Servitors, it's like, okay, you kill the Servitors, you kill the company vets, I still got aggressors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I should have done that. And my plan was to have 2 units of Melta on the right, 2 on the left, but the bikes died immediately. They didn't even get to do anything. They just took shots
Which
and died.
they typically do.
And then I was going to bring in the Eradicators on the left.
But the Dreadnought was there.
But the Contemptor was there. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, okay.
And I was like, man, that was one of the times I was like, why is this visible? And it was like, maybe I don't know.
Well, he came out to hit my aggressors, and he got them down to 1 model.
Yeah. Which was just not quite
not what I
enough. And then the Apothecary was like, here you go.
So, and that's something I like to do with Gravis is I like to put them where if you want to go for extreme angles, then yeah, you can get them. But I mean, they're T5 with 3 wounds and a 6-up Phono Pain. Like they're not, and then in cover, so they're not
the easiest.
easy.
Yeah.
And like even though. And that's what I really enjoy about this army is like it's surprising to me how durable it is. Like I'll just throw my models everywhere, and they'll just live.
Yeah.
They'll just take a beating, and like they're still alive.
They just won't die.
Right, yeah. And then so another key point happened where we noticed you moved and you advanced one of your characters and you ran back behind Daniel of that central objective of yours. And then you were like, you know what, I'm going to move him over here and have him hidden. And I thought that was the right call. And then something caused you to want to move back. And it was like, I was like, man, this guy's in line of sight of Eradicators.
It was because next turn he would have gotten 15 primary.
Oh, so it was I got
So
you.
he sacrificed him for 5 points.
Got you.
I traded 5 for 3. It was a 2-point swing that I had to do it. And then if you notice, right after the Tallyman died, I had my Lord of Virulence, and I was like, well, I'm not going to do it again, right? Because I'm already on that side of the board.
Right.
So that was my thinking. Like I even said it to him. I was like, yeah, if I give you this, it's 15 points for you. And it's like, that's a huge swing.
Yeah.
Because my plan was to come in on turns 4 and 5 and score 15 and 15.
I thought you were going to do that because we were talking about that too.
I was trying to sneak out the win that way and just kind of come up at the end. Because that's how I like my Death Guard armies to run. Turns 2 and 3, I'm only scoring 5-10 primary, but turns 4 and 5, I'm getting 15 both times.
Yeah, we were talking about it going into turn 2 and 3, and we were saying that, yo, man, like, all right, Daniel can with these 2 drones, the Demon Prince, all these winged models on my left, his right. You could have moved up and easily, those Contemptors are gone. That flank's yours. The Blight Lord's moving to position, the wing stuff was in position, PVC stays.
Yeah, and I was out of position on my left flank because I didn't put everything. I threw away the aggressors. I didn't have everything right. He was able to keep me off of that objective. So that cost me 10 points.
And I thought it was going to be a real uphill battle for you from that point, and that was crazy. So yeah, I mean, guys, well, in hindsight, I mean, I think that was an amazing game, very interesting for stream. We love the back and forth. Like I said, it was good reviews.
Yeah, I look forward to playing you again, man. We're probably going to run the same list because I think if we play if we play Hammer and Anvil, Sweep and Clear, and maybe a little more obscuring, I think it's going to be a completely different game, and I think it'll be much more engaging. And this game was engaging. Don't let me discount that, right? It's just that. I think if we all have the ample opportunity to apply our reserves and our tactical, build up of our army, I think it'll be more neck and neck. Because like I said, it pulled away at turns 4 and 5, and it was, yeah.
One decision I was kind of regretting is when I played the CP to put the Eradicators in reserve, I could have also put the Servitors. And I was thinking about doing that, and it actually played out to where if I could have put the Servitors, brought them in, on that left flank ahead of the Contemptors. That
Oh,
would have
yeah.
been that extra, because I moved out my thinking was with the aggressors to kind of bubble out, and if I would have also had the servitors, then they would not have been touched.
Yeah.
So I would have saved myself from there. But I just had a lot of like little mistakes.
That would have been an interesting a play too. That would have been big brain.
Yeah, but so like I just had a bunch of little mistakes and stuff getting outplayed, but then the Contemptors just put me on their back. And,
Yeah, carried you to victory, dude. All right, guys. Well, hey, good game and testament to the Warmaster challenge, man. It's a tough one to keep it rolling. So, Logan, we'll see who your next adversary is and see if you can run it down.
WC round 2.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Thanks for my guest commentator here, Steven, and
Right.
all your wonderful competitive commentary. We will have signups starting tomorrow for the next round of the Warmaster Challenge.
Right on. Thank you for all the joiners, all the spectators, everybody that enjoyed it. Please also feel free to give us any critique you guys have. We love hearing that. We love getting feedback on this evolving process. And thank you for everything, our spectators.
I'm Eric from Onboard Gaming, and we will catch you next time.